Sorry, and main animal kill advised.
Well, good morning from a wonderful Tswalu, Kalahari. Enjoying the beautiful landscape. A very bright and early morning. Well, not so bright yet. It's getting there. Very good morning. My name is Kyle and behind the camera is Craig. Welcome to Tswalu, Kalahari, and thank you so much for joining on this wonderful, wonderful drive. We are just enjoying the wonders that nature all has to offer, from the sunrise to the mountains to the beautiful little barking geckos right now. We are just absorbing all of it. We are going to be going out northwest and we're going to be searching for wild dogs, African wild dogs or painted dogs this morning. Hopefully we can get lucky and we can get hold of those wonderful and beautiful animals. So welcome aboard your very own live safari from the African wild. And thank you so much for joining us on this lovely, lovely day. Yes, and so in the mix of things, African wild dogs is our target species for this morning. But due to all the wonderful water that we have received over the past couple of weeks, insect and plant life is going crazy. So we're going to be looking for maybe some creepy crawlies in between, just to keep us going. It's also a wonderful element of the bush, obviously something that drives this whole ecosystem. So once again, my name is Carl, and Craig is behind camera making this all happen. Thank you very much, Craig. And thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful, wonderful day. What we're going to be doing is driving slowly out west, and northwest is where we're going to be heading to. There was a sighting yesterday, I think, of these beautiful dogs at a pan. And that's where we're going to start our search. When it comes to tracking, you want to use the last known location in order to track these wonderful animals down. And they do move tremendous distances. Oh, there's some wildebeest in the distance here. I think in 21 days, I measured them moving at about 114 kilometers. That's great distance, but they've got the endurance and the ability to do so. Hello, wildies. Good morning, good morning. Barking geckos haven't gone to bed yet. You can see from the very dominant posture from the individual on the left there, excuse me, that's definitely a bull. Or is it? Giving us a bit of an alarm call. Simon, good morning. Why are they called barking geckos? So I'm going to keep quiet for just 2 seconds. See if we can pick it up. There we go. If you look at reptiles, there's a very, very small percentage of reptiles that are actually able to physically make vocalizations. If you take a look at the majority of reptiles we have in South Africa, only 2 individuals are able to do this. One is a barking gecko, or geckos in general, and then the other one is the Nile crocodile. But this species, the barking gecko, gives a characteristic tick-tick-tick sound. It makes it sound like it's barking. So I think along the lines, they just gave it the name the barking gecko, even though its sound is tick-tick-tick. But a very beautiful sound, especially in summer, where reptiles are very, very active. And vocalization is a very efficient way of establishing oneself within the area. Everybody can understand who you are and what you are. And also, whoever's looking for a potential mate, you can be seen as a ready individual. But a very beautiful sound. And they'll start going to bed around about now. And the wildies will do a little bit more grazing. They're sitting in a mix of all this sour grass, very dominant grass in areas that have been semi-disturbed. And it's got this beautiful, almost like sour aromatic type smell. And it's a very dominant smell at this point. For now, we're going to enjoy these wildies, see what they do, but we're going to send you over to Steve to say good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a very wet... Ooh! Hello, everybody. My name's Steve, joined by Theo Taman on camera, and this set with life. And Tristan woke up this morning hearing alarm calls of Nyala. So we're just going to scratch her up. At least mils of is. So we're going to be very limited to our extensive action. But we're going to move around. Ask you and all don't like the wet. They'd like a hippo, an elephant, maybe fish, but then we can't really count fish because they don't really get exposed to the rain, do they? Birds don't like it. I mean, obviously, very wet. And out of season rain can cause illness and can cause these animals to get sick. But of course, the benefits of the rain, these animals love the benefits of the rain, as we all do. We love the benefits of the rain. We don't necessarily all like to get wet. Although every now and again, oh, this little impala's calling mum. Do it again. Do it again, cute one. Oh, how cute is that? Maybe that was Mum we saw on the other side, looking for her little one. So the reason I say the one impala is looking skittish and leopards, tracks and impala all on one side is this is normally what happens when we have predators hunting in these open areas. So we're going to check the other side and we might be lucky. Hello, cuteness. That's not your mom, is it? She's like, no, you're not my child. It's just the camp to the landowner's house there behind. Abdul, they are soaked. They are absolutely drenched, as is everything at the moment. It's been raining for quite a bit of the evening. And we woke up, it was really coming down. I didn't think we'd be coming out this morning, but we are at the moment. But that could change if the rain picks up and it starts to affect our gear. But for now, it's very, very gentle. Okay, and we're going to carry on around. These two impala are looking at something in the bush. They're very interested at something in the bush. What is in the bush? Go on, poke a nose. Nope. She's going to eat. Very good. Well, let's carry on. Oh, sorry, impalas. We know you've had a tremendously awful evening. tell us where is the leopard. We'll go find her and let you know where she's hanging out. You saw yesterday, I lost lions in the long grass, Tristan lost leopards in the long grass. It's very easy to lose wildlife at the moment. But we'll be sticking to these very dry or well-drained granitic sandy soils this morning. These boys are more concerned with each other than with the rain, and Tristan's out and about. He's on a pretty similar trajectory to me, and he's dying to say good morning.
We do have the same plans. We're just, I suppose, going to bumble and try and see what we can find. We've got some luck already in that we've managed to find some ellies. These guys, I'm sure, will not be in short supply today. Were absolutely everywhere yesterday. It was literally like a swarm of them all over the eastern side of Djuma and Chitwa particularly, so I'm pretty sure we'll see some of them. They enjoy this kind of rainy weather. We'll find them that they'll be out and about, unlike the impalas and the rest. Anyway, as Steve mentioned, my name is Tristan on camera. I've got him Paul this morning, and it's a wet start to the day, really. The cyclone is officially hit, which is no longer a cyclone. I believe it's been downgraded to a tropical depression, apparently. But I'm surprised the rain is holding off for now. Here, it was absolutely thumping down at about 2-3 o'clock in the morning. We have already had 30 millimeters of rain overnight, and they forecast for another 100 today. So it's going to be on-off rain the whole morning. Hopefully it doesn't get very intense. But with the weather we've had already, that means that off-roading is already a no-go and a few roads are closed. So it's going to be a kind of slow, steady morning and just take what we can get. I don't think we'll be doing a lot of tracking or anything like that. I think it's more going to be about just bumbling and trying to find things and then just hunkering down. I can feel now, as I spoke to Sue, the rain starting to come down a lot harder already. So I think it's going to just be one of those days where, it just rains throughout the day. The clouds certainly are very heavy and thick this morning. Sorry, but I'm going to have to ask you just to repeat yourself because I didn't get anything of what you said. Sometimes in the rain. There we go. Lana, they set their alarms for 2 minutes past 4 every morning in the summer. In the winter, they like to sleep a little bit, and so they'll set their alarm a little bit later to about 6 o'clock. It's a little bit more chilly in winter, so they typically like to lie in bed a little bit longer, tucked up in their little cozy blankets. So yeah, it's early start in the summer months, and when it's raining like this, now sleeping bag and blankets get wet anyway, so they get up and go. No, I'm joking. That's being very facetious of me. Elephants don't wake up in the morning. They're pretty much kind of moving throughout the day. At night, you'll find that sometimes the herds will lie a little bit and let the babies sleep, but they themselves, the adults, are generally quite awake. They like to know what's going on around them, and again, out here, no animals can really sleep for long periods of time and then just sit, okay, well, I'm going to wake up now when I feel like it. Because of the way predators move and are around, there's no structure, rhyme, or reason to when a predator may come across you, and so that means you've got to be very, very careful all the time and fairly alert all the time. Right, we'll sit with our ellies and enjoy them for a while longer as the rain continues to fall. In the meantime, though, I'll sit you across to Steve with a very special bird.
Thanks, Tristan. Well, we found 2 southern ground hornbills here on quarantine. Here comes the rain. Moving through the open area, feeding on anything that's been pushed out of the ground. Rainfall would cause many organisms. Oh no, this is unmanageable. We're going to have to put our sides down. The rain is pouring down now. We'll put the sides down there. We're going to have to put the sides down, so give us a moment. Excuse us. The rain is absolutely just bucketing down. You can probably hear it. Okay, well, while we get our covers down and try and stay dry, we'll send you around the corner to Tristan, who I'm sure is probably having the same concerns.
Well, we're in a very similar boat at the moment. We're also getting absolutely hammered and trying to get our rain covers down. Yeah, this whole car is just getting absolutely soaked. At the moment, there is no real way, like I say, to do covers and talk about wildlife right now. So do apologize if you see a bit of rattling and moving. We'll try and frame up the Ellies and then just try and get the car protected, because otherwise the equipment takes an absolute hammering and then doesn't, which is really not what we want. So like I say, we'll kind of try and figure out what we can do with these covers. In the meantime, though, let's send you to Carl, who I'm very jealous about because his weather is clear.
Well, hello and welcome back on board here at Tshwalu. We are slowly meandering westward, and we are utilizing this road to see if we can pick up on any tracks of these wonderful and highly mobile animals. This is typically when they'll be moving. It's early morning, late afternoon. You can have wild dogs moving under the cover of darkness, but only when you have moonlight that is strong enough for them to see. And also there's a lot of other carnivores around at night time. So they don't prefer and they don't enjoy really moving around under the cover of darkness. So what we're doing is listening for animals, any alarm calls, and obviously using tracks. Tracking tracks and signs is a very efficient way on how we're going to find these animals today. And then also asking the guides from yesterday, because there were guides with them yesterday afternoon. So slowly does it, and when it comes to tracking, you want to take your time and you want to do it right first time. Lucas, fingers crossed we get those beautiful animals. I would love to spend the morning with them, with you folks. They are really entertaining to be with on the move. Their sheer endurance, the way they communicate, the way they interact with each other and the environment is really, really entertaining stuff. And they just can run for days. It seems like they never run out of gas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find a spot here and I'm just going to put the vehicle off. We're quite dense here. And typically they like to run into the wind, because if they're running into the wind, that means that they can smell what is ahead of them. And we do have a bit of a northeasterly wind pushing in to Tshwalu this morning. And I can't believe how green it is. It's like a fairy tale right now. The lights on to push through nicely. Wow, Daniel, good morning. What is my most memorable sighting? I think the first time I had ever seen him, I had never been lucky enough to see wild dogs in my guiding career until I got to Tshwalu. And then it was a couple of months, we released the pack. And I had a very good friend of mine, which is a very big photographer, on board with me, and we followed them for the afternoon. And they took down a young coot, and I think it was the most mixed feeling, I think, when it comes to sighting. But that was incredible, just their sheer ability to work efficiently. You know, when they do take down an animal, it is gruesome in a way. We see it as gruesome. But you got to look at it from their point of view. It is efficiency, and that's what they do best. And then after the sighting, we had 21 jackal on this carcass after the wild dogs moved off. And that just took the sighting to a whole new level. So I think that would have to be the number one for me. And if we can follow them today, be very nice. So we're going to stop on this dune crest over here, where we have a little bit of height advantage, and we'll take a look and scan a bit further into this dune street to see if we can pick them up. Coming up to a dune crest, we've got beautiful terminalias. It's a tree that loves these dune crests here on Swartland, as well as drainage lines. And look who is looking at us. Who's watching who? So these dune crests are great for a vantage point when you're in search of elusive animals like cheetah and wild dog. They just give you an ability to see much, much further. But these animals don't have that problem. Let's get the bins out quickly while you guys enjoy those beautiful animals. Looks like a female. Individual's got quite a thin neck. It's also a way in how you can ID male and female. Males obviously use that neck for fighting, so the development or thickness of the neck I find to be a little more broader, a little more heavily built in comparison to a female, which is dainty and thin. So a little early morning browsing is a very important thing that ruminants go through. Obviously, it's the most efficient time to accumulate your daily intake. And these are two females. The female in the front, and then there's a female in the back of frame. Lovely. Obviously using that elongated skull structure, it's also very narrow. That enables that animal to get in to the mix of things there, dodging all those treacherous thorns. They've got great skill to nimbly work their way around all the tricky bits of the tree. And chemically, it will be a very short period and she'll move off. Obviously, the taste will change for her. A hawk moth. That's obviously the tree's chemical defense on deterring this individual. It's quite amazing how these trees have developed these advanced ways of communicating with each other. Back in the day, we thought trees were trees. They were there, they were green, and they just made oxygen. Although we are really starting to understand some very beautiful and intriguing things about trees around the world, in a deeper sense, so to say. So these two ladies enjoying each other's company at this distance, a bit of social distancing here. Obviously, they wander quite widely and freely across the landscape. A very loose bond, let's say that, between individuals. They'll just wander to and fro. So not like elephants where there's a very, very tight-knit bond between individuals and they hardly ever separate from each other. Giraffe kind of just wander and from here to there Victor, they look taller than the trees, or is the trees that are shorter than them? It's a relatively young camel thorn that female is browsing on. There are some camel thorns here which are much taller than them. To look at females will be about a meter shorter than a male, and it's about 5 odd meters. So, but it's a relatively young camel thorn that she is nibbling on at the moment. And she's getting tucked in there now, properly. It's got quite a big belly as well. Hello. And that's how a giraffe hides. I mean, those leaves are tiny, so she is working with precision there to pick off those leaves and work her way around all those spiny and treacherous thorns. Nola, the giraffe population in Tswalu is very healthy. Over the past few years, they have really boomed in a population. So much to say that we've actually had to relocate individuals because they have done so well here. And if you look at areas that are protected, this is where these animals would be on the increase. Unlike other areas, unfortunately, of Africa, where certain populations are in a decline. Just look at both of their behavior. They're looking at something. There's a little one coming. Nice one, Craig. So the behavior of those giraffe, they were both staring into the distance. And that gave me indication that they're looking at something. And in the distance is a younger one coming through. And they were just staring that young one down. So, looking at the populations in Africa, giraffe as a whole, in terms of population numbers, they are less than around 100,000. You think that's just a blip in an ocean. And so in these areas where you can protect them and they can thrive, like here in Tswalu, it is very, very important that we can stimulate and, repopulate other areas that have recently been protected or cleared off or demarcated for conservation. Because unfortunately there's a few individuals that are not doing well at this point in time. Habitat loss and the desire of hunting them is a big thing. Parts of them are used for muti. Even their tail is used for like fly swatters and traditional tools. So everything we can do, we must do. We should be doing more. Way more. As a species, we've got the intellectual capacity to do way more, and the resources. So I don't see anything in this valley busy moving around. Obviously, the speed at which wild dogs move, they move in a light trot when they are mobile, so making them fairly easy to I thought that was one. Making them fairly easy to see when they're on the move. And also the giraffe would give them away very quickly. Not that the giraffe is in any threat, because wild dogs obviously won't go for giraffe. They're way too big for giraffe. But a predator has a certain way of moving. And all animals pick that up. And if there's a predator, you might as well watch that predator to make sure that predator doesn't evade your visual point of view. You want to keep predators in your line of sight. It's very still and very beautiful out here at the moment. The sky is starting to light up as well behind us.
I'm sure it is, Carl, and I'm very jealous that your sky is lighting up because ours is only getting darker and the rain is absolutely hammering down now. I mean, you can see these poor little impalas that are hunkered under a tiny little boree bush, and you can see the rain kind of falling in the foreground. And I actually just going to keep quiet so you can hear the sort of sound of the pitter-patter. It's actually fairly relaxing if you're not kind of sitting in it, getting it drenched. Let's say it's fair to say that these are conditions for fish as opposed to people and animals. I think frogs and fish are a lot happier right now than potentially what we are. But if this rain continues at this pace like this, a lot of the roads that we generally traverse are going to be completely saturated and therefore not drivable. All we're going to end up doing is damaging them. So we're going to have to be a bit careful about where we go. Just stay on crest for now. Be very sensitive about the areas that we do drive. That's for sure. All right, I might just bumble a little bit, see if we can find anything and see if maybe the rain eases up at some point.
We have left those beautiful tall animals and we are moving west. So sunrise will be behind us and it is just starting to look very, very pretty this side. This early morning period where the sun just emerges is for me just so amazing. Gives me goosebumps. We're going to be slightly changing our angle shortly. I'm sure you guys would have looked at wattled starlings flying away. There is so many here this year. It is unreal. Previous years we have not seen so many wattled starlings on Swali. And obviously now due to these rains there's enough resources to support these birds that would otherwise not be here. Let me just roll forward for us here, Craig. And there's flocks and flocks and flocks of them. I'm sure with Mora too, folks would have all gone. Would have seen them. Going through the sea of green. Can't say this here very often. Let's give everybody a view here of how beautiful this side is. Just with all the greenery right now, it is just spectacular. and how lucky that everything can thrive off that rain that has touched the beautiful land. I mean, when you folks, for our long viewers, when we started off with Dylan, I wonder if everybody remembers how dry it really was. Because driving around, even now, I take it for granted. I'm like, oh, it's here. But then I reminisce back to a time when we were in an ocean of, reddish soil. Yeah, red and light brown. Well, for now, we're going to keep on searching, but we're going to send you over to Tristan with some impala in the rain.
Well, while Carl keeps on his search in beautiful sunny skies, you can see things are just going from bad to worse. It's now getting to the point where and there's not much I can do. I'm not even going to bumble. I'm just sitting dead still with these impalas because the rain is just coming down too much to drive, and we're too far from camp right now to even head back. So we're just going to do, well, sit and wait for a little bit. If it really starts to hammer down even more, we'll just cover the whole car up and just wait it out a little bit before we maybe head back to camp. I don't know, we might not. We'll just sit and see. But anyway, it's nice to just sit and talk about impala for a while. It's not something, that we generally spend a long time with, and this provides a perfect opportunity to see them. Now, you'll notice that the impalas have all come out from under the trees. And there's a very good reason for that. Even though it is absolutely tanking down right now, it's because of the noise of the rain and the visual, you can see it quite tricky to see quite far. They don't want to get caught in anywhere where there's a little bit of a thicket, so they're moving onto the road itself to be able to then see if anything's coming near them. While most cats won't hunt in rain like this, you'll find every now and then there is a cat that decides, I'm going to try and give it a bash, and they try and kind of hunt some unsuspecting animals. And so they know that, so they try and get onto the most open part of wherever they are, and the road just happens to be that. They're wet as it is, it's not going to change for them to go under a tree. They are getting absolutely pelted regardless of their position out here. So if you are going to be wet, you might as well be wet in the safest place possible. What you'll also notice with this particular herd is that it's a mixed herd. It's not just girls and boys. It's multiple different kind of sexes that are spread throughout, which I'll get into shortly. Justine, can animals catch the flu? So no, I've never seen an animal catch the flu. Although in saying that, young elephants, if they are orphaned from their mothers and have, unfortunately, for some reason, not been able to get a lot of their mother's milk, they can get pneumonia quite easily. But I've never seen them getting influenza. We know that with COVID, there's been recorded cases of certain animals actually testing positive for COVID. So they obviously, it is transferable, some of the flu viruses, but it's not something that you see a lot of, because ultimately, like we've been saying, any animal that's sick, injured, not in good condition will unfortunately not survive out here. It will be taken long before it can kind of show massive symptoms to us. Can you hear this rain? It's unbelievable. I mean, I have a dam in my footwell already. It's getting so much water in it, but it's incredible actually just sitting out here and listening to this. It's a serious downpour that's coming through now. But as I was saying, the sort of male-female sex ratio of these impalas always is dependent on the time of the year. So male impalas can become territorial during the rutting season. See how nervous they are, shame. They're very uncomfortable in this weather. So during the rut season, when you've got the males competing for females, then you'll find that they'll become very territorial. They'll mark their territories out. They'll rub scent glands all over the place, and they try and keep other males at bay. Now, during that period, those males, even though they do all of that, are actually only territorial for 4 or 5 days. They're not actually territorial for a long period because of how much competition there is. But at this time of the year, when there's all the babies, there's no females in heat, you'll actually find that all the males start to join the herds for safety in numbers. All right, well, I mean, it's starting to ease off, so I might slowly start heading back closer to camp, just in case it does get heavy again. In the meantime, let's send you to Kyle, who's on the search for wild dogs.
Swimming through this grass. You can see I've got my very cool glasses on, just for all the grass seeds. Grass seeds are meant to stay on the grass or on the ground, not in my eyes. But look at the height of this grass. It is unreal. We have changed our direction. We are now moving south, and we have just heard that somebody has located the wild dogs, and I know exactly where they are. So we are en route there, and hopefully we can stick with him for the morning. But while we're busy moving through this beautiful green landscape, I want you folks to absorb all of this, because it is something very, very special. Common quail. Oh, yo, in flight. They're calling quite a lot. Now we've got common quail, which is a very prominent one. There he goes. Sorry, buddy. And then also button quail that's calling at the moment. And these grassy sections are perfect for quail. Obviously they like to be hidden, and concealment's the main aim of the game for them. See, the sun is peeking up over the first dune here on our left-hand side. So the guide has informed me that it seems like the spotted hyena last night took down a kudu, and this kudu has drawn in the dogs, and fantastic, because we have then now located them. And he says that they have fed on this kudu carcass, but he says there's also a lot of vultures around, which is very, very cool. So the interaction of those species all within the same area is always just very entertaining stuff. Marianne, you could literally get lost inside there. I think I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to call a guide and I'm going to hide in the grass, and he mustn't know that I'm there, and I'm just going to bounce up. It is very tall. I mean, a lion could be sitting in this stuff. You would not see a lion. 4 meters, 3 meters. So it's a brilliant advantage for certain animals, but for others it could be very, very dangerous, because now it could put you in a situation that you don't like to be in. Certain animals, especially smaller ones, don't like to be concealed in thick stuff like this. They want open areas. So predators could really use this to their advantage now. And you could also evade. You could also give, shake off the predator in this type of stuff as well. See how the light is just kissing the tops of the trees here now. I find myself just daydreaming a lot, driving and just looking. And this is all sour grass. Kendra, by the mid of March, beginning April, it'll start changing already. We're going to go up Virginia. So Kendra, it's about the mid of March, beginning April, and then we'll start going into the Kalahari colors, the true Kalahari colors, which is that light khaki brown. And then obviously the beautiful contrast with this red earth is just absolutely amazing. Look at that. Okay, that's gonna come off. Okay, so there's this dune. Let me just see my dune quickly. It's this one, and then we're going to go over it, and then we are going to head south in between the dune street. And those dogs are sitting somewhere over there. Do we want to make our way there as quickly as possible? Because if they start to move, we want to be right on their tail. Literally on their tail. I'm just joking. Maybe a tail and a half length. Sorry, Craig. Still there? These dunes are obviously very beautiful, but ecologically they are very sensitive. And so you can see I'm following the road. You'll never cross over a dune where there's no cut line, just to protect these beautiful and ancient structures. And ecology, they're very important for certain animals that really like these in-between bits. But as we've done before, I really enjoy going up and over in them. It makes me feel like I'm on a roller coaster sometimes. And obviously control and how to do it is very important. You don't want to be blasting through the dune itself. You want to control the vehicle to get up and over efficiently. Oh, sorry, one more. Unbelievable. I think the question is, how often do we spot brown hyenas? I would say more in the winter, where they are a little bit more mobile through the daylight hours, late afternoon, early evening. In summer now, it's a bit of a now and then sighting. It's always such a treat to see a brown hyena. We had a brown hyena 3 days ago. We were going down south and we stopped at a pan, did some birding. And we were watching Bradfield Swift come over us. And in the mix of things, one of our trackers, my colleague Jonas, mentioned, look at the hill. And down from the hill to the pan, the brown hyena came, had a nice little drink, and then moved off. So I would say in a given day, a couple in the summer, but then in winter we can see them on a regular basis. So obviously you can see a bit further in the daylight hours. They're very shy animals. They're not like their boisterous cousins. They like to be by themselves. They like to be quiet. Okay, this is our Dune Street. So what we're going to be doing over here at the junction is we're going to be going down south. And then I need everybody to be helping me out to find these beautiful animals. Sure, can't even see the cut lines anymore, it's overgrown so much. There's so much ground cover. Okay, and south we go. Looking for big ears, and then obviously their patterning, their coloration or coat color is so distinctive. And they are within this Dune Street right over here. So as the guide mentioned, they were near a carcass, so there might be some feeding, so that'll keep them locked to the area for a longer period, which makes it a bit better for us to find them. moment, you guys have been with them. There's 4 of them at the moment. There's some oryx. There's a wildebeest. Craig has spotted them. Craig has spotted them. Nice one, Craig. Let me just turn the vehicle here. You can see the wildebeest is also showing us that he sees something. Oh, sorry. Yes. Oh, they're gonna crest. So what we're going to do is if they hit that dune crest, we're going to have to just double back. We're going to go to the junction and then we're going to cross over the cut line and then try and intercept them in this dune street. But it's going to be a very beautiful view once they get to the top of that dune and be silhouetted. Just behind these trees, maybe they should pop out there. Now there's one. Look at that. Wow, absolutely amazing. And they're going to crest up and over the dunes. So like I said, we just can't go over those beautiful dunes. So if they do go up and over, we're going to double back very quickly. There we go. And we are going to intercept them from the other side. Obviously using the cut lines as a way to get around. Just so that we can protect these beautiful structures here on Tswalu and the diversity that comes with it. So here we go. Let's turn around very quickly. And making sure that they stay on that side. They don't cross back onto this side that we're currently on. We've had that few times. One is running on the crest there, Craig. Literally in the sun, but over and gone. Here comes another one from the back. Wow, absolutely amazing. And they are on the move. You can see how efficient they go to the left there. See how efficient those animals move. It is unbelievable. It doesn't look like they're expending a lot of energy, but they are moving. They just stopped there now. We just need to keep tabs on them because if they do stay on this side and we wrap around, we'll waste all of our time. And we might lose them. So using the dune as a bit of a vantage point, just like we were doing earlier. And our sight is very good, so if there is a potential meal, they would be able to see it from there. But they're also using their sense of smell and as well as their hearing. All-rounded senses, very strong noses, very good. Jimmy, and it was very quick. It doesn't normally happen like that. When you go and search for a wild dog, you basically pack yourself a picnic, maybe a sleeping bag, because it's going to be a process. The vastness of Tswalu and to find these animals, it really is sometimes a tricky thing. So north we go, and from there we're going to take the cut line heading east, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to wait for these animals to meet up with us. We might go into the block. We do obviously have the luxury of going off-road. So then we'll go into this dune street and see if we can locate them, and then we'll see where they move to, see what they're going to do. Jimmy, that was very quick process of relocation. Because they would have been on the move on first light. They would have been on the move. They would have gotten up, done a bit of socializing, a bit of grooming, stretching, and then gone. And you can see, we'll see now how far they move in such a short distance. Well, while we do this, we're going to send you over to Steve, and where he's at a dam, and we'll see you when you get back to the side.
Good morning, everybody. Apologies for the very all over the place camera work at the moment on the dam cam. I have just been given control, and fortunately I was informed of a button that was the wrong button to push, and what that did is it spun the camera in a full 360 degree, and I found myself exactly where I didn't want to be. So the rain is pouring down in Djuma. It's coming and going, coming and going. And forgive me while I try and figure out the controls to get some nice focus. I was trying to do focus before, and that is what caused me to end up sending the dam cam in the wrong direction. You can see the rain pitter-pattering down on the water there. I am absolutely drenched from being out there. Even the hippos are not enjoying the rain. We had a water buck a moment before that one of the zoomies found, and I don't know where it is now, so we'll have to re-find him. But we've been expecting this rain. We'll just go out a bit and show you the nice wide of the watering hole. And it's unlikely you're going to get too many animals moving around in this weather. There are a few impala hanging around the water and a water buck nearby. I don't know where they are now. I'll have to try to find them again. But forgive me for a very jaunty control. Dylan, I haven't seen crocodiles this year, but last year most certainly there was a big crocodile that we actually nearly got on foot the one day. We had tracks on bushwalk and we heard hyenas going crazy. We called James into it. It was actually, I'll show you, it was just up over here. So we basically had in the bushes at the back over there where you see the base of those trees, Tlalamba had made a kill. And the hyenas went to go steal it. And one of those trees over there at the bottom of the tree, the tall ones at the back, the big marulas. And we went to go and follow up on the leopard and the hyena activity. And we found tracks crossing the road, which is sort of mid-screen. There's a road over there, Mvubu Road. And we found tracks of a ginormous crocodile that had crossed the road. And then James went in with a vehicle. And sadly, we didn't get to see it, us, because myself and Morris were on foot. But James managed to relay some very awesome footage to those viewers out there who remember seeing Tlalamba and the hyenas and the crocodile interacting. And I think because Vuyatela watering hole is not a constant source of fish, the crocodile was getting a little bit desperate and a little bit hungry at the same time. So he went out looking for the food that a leopard had caught, and it's not uncommon for crocodiles to steal the food from other animals, including lion. But it was a very, very brazen act. He'd moved at least 150 yards from the watering hole in search of a meal. little bit of cleaning of the lens. This is actually quite fun, Zoomies. I can see why you enjoy it so much. Now, let's have a look if we can find any animals. They're all hiding. You see how the grass is even sort of falling over with the rain? It's coming and going as you'd expect in a high wind sort of weather. So you get these downpours and then a little lull and then you think you're safe and then downpour again. And hippos are most certainly warm-blooded. But what is interesting about them, in fact, and they're quite a unique mammal in that regard, is that let's just talk about them in the fact of that they are very similar in size to a rhino. Okay, hippos are very similar in size to a rhino. There's only a few kilograms difference. But rhino feed on far more food than a hippo would feed on. Far more food. I'm just trying to learn the focus here, everybody. But what the hippo does is how do we keep warm? When we say warm-blooded, how exactly is a warm-blooded animal kept warm? And that is through metabolic energy. Metabolic energy, which is through feeding. Now, the hippo requires far less food to sustain itself due to the fact that it behaves like a crocodile in that when it's cold, it goes into the water, into the sun, and when it's hot, it goes into the water. So it's able to limit the amount of food that it needs to feed on versus that of an animal very similar in size. So although the hippo is warm-blooded, they use the environment to their benefit. So they're very lazy animals. They spend a lot of time being very inactive. And due to the fact that there's water, they can use the water to cool themselves and the sun to warm themselves and then have very small jaunts of feeding activity at night. But although that adaptation seems to be very beneficial, look at that wave of rain coming across, seems to be beneficial. Hippos are extremely sensitive to droughts. When these watering holes are dried up, hippos will struggle enormously because if they aren't able to moisten their bodies or keep their bodies wet, they will dehydrate and essentially melt. Hello, Tristan.
Hello.
Tristan has survived the rain. He's come back and to hopefully dry off and have himself a cup of tea.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the controls here. I think I finally got the focus.
If you turn the thing where you said 4,
Yeah.
take that down to 2, and you'll see that the zooming is much easier.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Tristan's giving me some tricks of the trade, everybody. Oh, Claire, you say it's awesome to have me as a Zoomie. Well, Claire, I'm actually soaking wet at the moment, so I'm feeling a little bit wet and a little bit cold, so I need to take off my very wet jacket. We got caught in it out there. There's nothing for it, I'm afraid. I'm not a hippo. I don't enjoy being too wet, especially when it's cold. But the rain has arrived. The predicted cyclone event has arrived, and I've been looking at some videos online. Who knows the reality behind many of them, but it looks like Mozambique is having a horrid time, as it did the year before last. Mozambique is pretty much a sand dune country, everybody. It's very low lying. It's all made up of, basically it was once upon a time a massive beach when the ocean waters were taller or higher. It was just ocean floor and sandy. And so now that floodplain flatness is its downfall, because when the water levels increase in the rivers and the streams, everything goes underwater. So you've got to feel for those people. is a relatively or extremely poor country as is. And in times like this, many of you sitting at home in your warm house and your heated accommodations can have a couple of words of praise and thanks to your fortune. Think about all of those people out there who aren't as fortunate or as lucky as we are. And although I'm feeling a little bit wet at the moment, I'm still able to come back to a warm accommodation with people on tap to go and make me coffee from time to time. I've got a flask of coffee with me as always, so I'm feeling quite good. But at some point, I'm sure Tristan will probably tag team with me, and we'll do a little bit of a duo. Maybe we'll even do a little bit of cricket commentary on the Dam Cam. I don't know if any of you have ever spent time watching or listening to cricket. Cricket is essentially a fantastic sport, and the sport itself is fun to watch, but sometimes the highlight of the event is the two gentlemen, because it's generally always two, sometimes three gentlemen sitting there having a fat chat about life and about sport and about events. And when I used to guide up in Northern Kruger with Wilderness Safaris, there was a gentleman who worked with me. His name was James Bailey. And I used to give the nice factual quotations, and he used to give the one-liner funny remarks. And it was quite entertaining, actually. Quite entertaining. So who knows who will be the funny one between Tristan and myself? Probably me, he says. But we are going to hang around the dam here. We've got no other option, and we'll catch up with you a little bit later.
We are moving south along this beautiful cut line, and we are trying to relocate on these wonderful African wild dogs. So we're driving very slowly. And we are looking for the visual point of reference. So we came this side, they could have double backed onto the other side. Here on the right hand side, let's just watch their behavior. So if they had seen them, they would definitely show us. Everybody looks relaxed on this front. Defensive posture is quite a large group of oryx. Wow.
You're back with us, everybody, and apologies for the focus that's trying to do its own thing there. The rain is moving the leaves around, and there seems to be an autofocus happening. We apologize for that. Okay, here's a little trick. Come in. Are you ready for it? A little bit of windscreen wiper action. The heavens are descending upon us. Blessings to the rain, everybody, of course, but as I said, it's not always life-giving. Rain in this sort of magnitude can be quite destructive. Dolly, that's one of the things that classifies hippos in the same family as the whale these days, is that they do everything in the water. Absolutely everything. From communication to defecation to feeding, although they do feed outside the water as well. But they breed in the water, they give birth, and they mate in the water. It makes it a little bit easier. I mean, if you've ever seen a hippo's legs, they're very short. For a hippo to be able to mount a female outside the water, I think would be rather difficult. You do see elephants doing it, but that is a process on its own. Another thing with regards to hippos versus rhinos is that the rhino, white rhino, has got a gestation period of 15 months, whereas a hippo, due to the fact that it lives in water and has lower energy requirements, can actually give birth to their babies at 9 months. Now, 6 months is an enormous period of time that female can save, having the baby away or out of the body. The pressures and taxing that it requires to spend another 6 months in pregnancy must be quite something. Not that I would have any idea, to be honest. But it does also make the youngsters quite vulnerable if they're out and about on a walk. But it makes mum very, very vigilant. Okay, let's see if we can find our water buck. Where did he get to? I think it was a she, actually. Lee, that's a good question. Lee wants to know if I think the Mawati riverbed will flow again. Well, the outlet is just on the side here, so we can actually maybe check. I'm not sure if we will be able to see its overflow. And thanks to Tristan for giving me some advice on the one control. It's now much less disjointed. Before it was like a little bit hyper, the camera, the swing, the swivel. I haven't had any official zoomy training, everybody. Okay, so there's the berm at the back, and just in front of this berm is where the water will be flowing. So I don't think we'll be able to see it from here. There you can see the berm through the gap. I don't know if we'll be able to see the water flow. I don't think so. So it's very possible that the watering hole might flow again. There's a gap just there above that stump in the middle of the picture. That would be where the water would be flowing, but we can't see it right now. So it is very likely that after such rain, because we had rain before we went out, and then what we noticed, because what happens is the ground needs to get to a certain saturation point before it starts to flow on the surface. And we definitely received that this morning before we went out, because as soon as that first hard rain hit, it was just running off over the surface. So essentially what happens is that the ground gets to a saturation point where there's no more absorption, and then water that hits the floor has got nowhere to go except along the surface, and that is what we call surface runoff. And the surface runoff then goes straight into the watering holes. And that's also what causes a lot of the damage to the roads, is that surface runoff. But in saying that, what's very, very interesting is something I learned in my freshwater management years ago, is the majority of the water we have in flooding has actually got a groundwater footprint. So The bottom of dams, lakes, rivers is sandy and porous, and the majority of the water that enters them actually comes in through the ground, so from the water table. Yes, a lot of it comes over the surface, but a lot of it actually comes through the ground of the riverbed itself. It's called hyporheic absorption. So most of the water we see in floods has actually come into the riverbed from the ground, and then that overflows to a point. Sorry about the focus. I don't know why it is being so out of focus for me there. Just this watering hole is looking rather full. Paul's just watching my focus skills here, and he's just shaking his head. Nearly put me in a headlock. Oh. Wow. Okay, so there's another little lull in the storm. Looks so peaceful, doesn't it? Looks so peaceful out there. So this is about as full as it gets. We'll see if this fills up further back. Then we'll know. Yes, you can see how full that is there. It's about as full as it gets. So it's probably near, or if not already, starting to flow over. Well, we're going to stay here at our watering hole and send you back over to the west, where I'm sure they're not receiving any rain.
Well, that's typical wild dog behavior. We thought, no, they had run off further east, so we wrapped around quickly, getting that side, finding no tracks. All the animals are calm. So we decided to come back this side. And upon taking it a bit slower, we have found these wonderful animals just resting on top of the dune crest. So I wonder if the carcass that they found from those spotted hyena was enough to fill the bellies. But just like we were using the dune crest, it's obviously a great vantage point for these animals to scan for available prey. And also taking it easy. It's a nice shady spot. We had thought they had went north, but we ran to the dune crest quickly and there was no tracks going further north. So that gave us an indication that they were somewhere behind us. And you can see how sneaky they are. I literally thought they were going to be running off to the east. But what we'll do is we'll try and find that carcass a little bit later and see how much they have eaten, because that'll give us an indication if these dogs are going to hunt. They should be on the move by now. Obviously the day will start warming up from now, and it really won't be an efficient period for them to hunt in. Although they will take the opportunity if it is a viable one, but they really do favour the early morning, late afternoon periods. Hammond, that would depend on what's happening. So wild dogs are nomadic, so that means they don't have a set area. They only become static when a female is denning. But I've on occasions followed dogs where they have moved from the den site 10, 15 kilometers north. They have chased a kudu, they killed a kudu, and then they'll frantically feed. They basically gorge themselves and they want to get as much as possible, and then they want to get out of there. And then after feeding, running 10, 15 k's back to the den. So, I mean, they are built for endurance. Their stamina is unbelievable. They can outrun anything. And I mean, if you look at antelope, you'd have antelope that would have a fleeing distance of about 400 meters. I mean, that's far, 400 meters flat out. That's pretty good. But these dogs can run a top speed for 3+ kilometers. And they'll just physically just wear down the prey item until you can then get a hold on it. But they are designed for running. Very efficient, lightweight frame. That obviously allows them to be a little more efficient in that movement. And then pads that are designed to help and aid them as well. but they are remarkable at what they do. Oh, lifted his head there very quickly. Those big ears picking up all the sounds. Also very efficient in how they communicate with each other over great distances. 3-4 kilometers they can communicate vocally with one another. But just super relaxed. So where that dog is sitting, that beautiful painted wolf, from its position south, so to the right of the screen, just over the dune crest, there is a massive herd of oryx. It must be 40, 50 oryx at least. And what I'm hoping for is that it starts to get a little bit warmer and these animals start to move. The wind is changed a bit, has changed a bit. It's coming more from the east now. So hopefully they crest up over that dune and they see that herd of oryx and they decide they would like some breakfast. But while we keep tabs on these wonderful animals, we're going to send you over to Steve.
Hello again, everybody. We've managed to find some impalas. They're not looking... Oh, there we go. That's a bit of a body shake. Oh, look how wet they are. Now, they are hiding from the wind. Can you see the wind is buffeting from the left? You can see those grass stalks are blowing. So they're all trying to shelter in the wind as much as they can. And don't forget, the wind also brings the rain from that angle. So although it's not foolproof to stay dry there, it is a means to maintaining a little bit of comfort. And at the same time, comfort eating is very helpful as well. And I am joined on my left-hand side by a gentleman you know and love very well. Hello, Tristan.
Hello, Stephen. How are you?
Oh, I'm super well, thank you.
Wonderful.
I think I'm starting to dry out a bit, but
You're lucky.
very slowly. Why are you not drying out? What is your problem?
I have wet underpants, Stephen.
Oh, goodness. Tristan has got wet
Worst kind
underpants.
of wet is being on Game Drive in wet underpants and
Wet
shoes.
Underpants and wet shoes.
Delightful feeling.
Well, everybody, I've got wet pants all the way down the legs, and Tristan's got wet underpants. And I was wearing my gumboots thinking I'd be very smart. But as what happened last rainy season, the rain just went down inside the top of the gumboots.
Which is not as fun.
It's not as fun, no. So I'm actually pooling a little bit around my toes.
Oh, it's like swimming.
It's like swimming. I actually feel like I'm in touch with the water right now.
There we go. You're connecting with nature in the rain.
Exactly. We are connecting with nature.
Shame. These poor impalas, they've had a rough start to the morning. What do we do on a rainy day, Stephen? Generally, lie outside on the lounges. Absorbed in lounging. Rainy days typically are just spent inside. Just each person goes to their room, I suppose. Sometimes we'll set up a movie in FC and have a little popcorn and movie in the old Final Control that we have on site here.
I think one of the things that happens is that we get so accustomed to the heat that as soon as there's a splattering of rain and it cools things down, everybody goes and hides and hibernates in their beds.
Exactly. Now, people do have naps because they can actually nap without having to be roasted inside their rooms.
It cools everything down to the point where you can actually snuggle in your duvet with all the covers on and feel quite lovely.
Yeah.
Something I think these impalas wish they had right now.
Shame, they were looking so miserable when I was on my way back when it was really pelting down. And these poor guys looked as though they were having the worst day ever. The Ellies looked completely oblivious to the rain, but these guys did not look like they were having fun.
No, elephants definitely seem to enjoy it, don't they?
Can you imagine what lions and leopards must have looked like during that rain? They must have been hating life. There's nothing more miserable than a cat in the rain. Oh.
Something just happened to the coloration there. I'm learning. I don't know what I did, but
Seems like the saturation.
a little bit of saturation happening. So yes, on rainy days, essentially we finally find moments of coolness, and it's actually a really nice time to just
Take it easy.
take it very easy.
We also make lots of tea.
Lots of tea.
or coffee?
Lots of coffee.
Hot chocolate, whatever.
Hot chocolate. I'm really getting into the cacao lately, so I'm thinking I'm going to be making a cacao hot chocolate just now,
Okay.
which I think will be delicious.
Sounds very nice.
Introduced to cacao on my December-November foray, and what a wonderful product that is. And the impalas have been spooked by something.
I think it's the fact that the rain is starting to pelt down again. It's not exactly ideal.
Dazzy, you say that impala shake was so cool. Wouldn't that be incredible to be able to shake your body like that? I reckon we could invent some new dance moves. Oh, there we go, another shake.
It's amazing how much water comes off them when they shake, though. You kind of see them, and while their fur looks a little bit matted, they don't look as though they're saturated, and then they shake their bodies. It's unbelievable the amount of water that actually comes off. Oh, there we go.
And here goes the herd mentality. Are you ready for it?
There we go.
There goes Susan. No, Sarah, I'm coming too. Guinevere.
It's an interesting choice of name, Guinevere, after Susan and Sarah.
I don't know. It's just all coming to me like that. There's really no, and I'm also trying to drive. So,
I see this.
I've lost them. I'm glad Paul is not in the room, because that was some shoddy camera work in the form of where on earth did the impala go? There we go.
Behind the tree is the answer to that, Stephen.
Okay. Now this lady is going. Where did my friends go? We talk a lot about herd mentality, everybody, and staying in the herd is safe. You'll see, whoopsie, see the speed now that you gave me that option for the 2. Well, it looks like we've lost them.
Yes, they've gone behind the tree. It happens.
The tree, yeah.
No, unfortunately. Oh, it's looking dark to the south, isn't it?
Yeah, there is the weather that is still emerging from the south and the east. And while we batten down the hatches further, we're going to send you over to the west with Kyle, who's enjoying a lovely morning with some wild dogs.
Well, welcome back. These lovely animals are still resting on top of the dune crest. And we're just sitting tight and waiting for a bit of movement. It's important that you take little bouts of rest, just to make sure that you've got the gas in the tank when the situation deems so. And I'm thinking that if they fed on that carcass, that means they might have quite a bit of food in their tummy. But it depends on how much. And this pack is still busy really bonding, so to say. They're still solidifying their bonds and understanding each other. And the stronger the pack, the more efficient they hunt. And these beginning periods are always tricky for them. The wildebeest busy calling out. Basically claiming rights. Painted Wolf, can they outrun hyenas? Well, I've read and I've heard accounts that spotted hyena have about the same stamina. They can run very, very far distances, and if you look at their morphological structure, they're designed in a very efficient way. At top, when they are busy moving to keep a general pace going, their design is amazing. I wouldn't know. I would say they would be able to keep up, but in terms of running speed, wild dogs will outdo hyenas. But endurance, I think they can fetch the same distance as wild dogs. I mean, they are super, super strong animals as well, spotted hyena. But yeah, distance and outrunning animals is definitely their trump card. And right now, the trump card is just relaxing in a nice, beautiful, cool, sandy dune. All the birds calling around us. It's a lovely morning. And to be looking at these beautiful animals is a real treat. You think about the general population status of them, they are very few and far in between. And because of that wide roaming range, that's unfortunately what puts them into conflict with humans quite a lot. Wildebeest now giving an alarm call. Lena, how long can a wild dog survive without food? That's a very good question. I've seen the Pakian swallow go 6 days without feeding. I'm sure they'd be able to go a little bit more, but 6 days without feeding, and that was a stretch. Obviously, different individuals, different packs, it might vary slightly. I'm not sure what's the longest or what's the maximum duration that animal would be able to survive without a meal. But in terms of length, I've seen 5-6 days a pack go without successfully hunting, and the pack was still establishing themselves and bonding with each other. Just go to the left of here. There's an ashy tit in the tree here, right on top. So a good few days. There he flies. Craig, he's still there. There's still another one. And there he flies. Well done, Craig. Got it. Yeah, there was that ashy tit. Was he calling from inside the tree? And what skills Craig is displaying there, getting that bird on the tree and then also in flight. And now they're still there. Tell me they've run off now when we looked at the bird. thought we had lost the dogs, but they are just tucked behind a bit of greenery. You can just see the ears moving every now and then, and the animal's body just shifting. Yep, there it is up. Could you get onto that, Craig? You see that bird there? It's a desert cisticola. Just folks, sorry about this. We're just going to try and see if we can lock onto this beautiful little bird. It is very tiny. No, sorry. Okay. It's a very, very nice bird to see, and something that we don't see very often. You get to hear them more than you actually do see them. It's called a cisticola. It's a very tiny, tiny little bird, and they love these grassy sections, and they are frantically calling at the moment because it's the breeding period for them. And this one here behind us is actually displaying a desert cisticola. Oh, it is calling behind you again. Sure. Yo, if we can find the nest, do you see it?
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Yo, you're right, yeah. Just hold in there, folks. Craig's just going to whip us around quickly, and we're going to be looking at a brand new bird. I don't know if Moritz would have seen this. There it is on the right-hand side. Oh, there it flies. You did get a little view of it. Should come back. Being territorial, obviously that bird would stay within this given area, but these grassy sections now are perfect for this little bird. It's coming back. Yeah, there we go. You see on it. And what we were looking at is this beautiful little thing here. Sure, you're still on it there, Greg? Okay, so the individual we were looking at, or we got a brief sighting of, is this beautiful individual over here, Desert cisticola. Tiny little bird and a very distinctive call. It's got this sharp single note whistle that's very, very, very tiny and very, very distinctive, especially in these grassy areas. And then when it's flying above us, it's giving this almost like click, click, and obviously very, very distinctive to pick up on that noise. But really, really nice bird to see. Oh, they're still there. They are still there. Oh, we've got flat dogs now. The wildebeest obviously is alarm calling for us. Expelling air out of his nasal cavity. Okay, well, we're going to send you back over to Steve and Tristan at the dam where they've got something for you guys.
I mean, a little bit of activity. We've got an Egyptian goose that is, well, grooming itself. It's getting rid of all the water all over its body. You can actually see a few droplets on those feathers, particularly around the chest area, those little sparkly water drops. And basically what this bird is doing is trying to just get all its feathers back in place again, clean off all these water droplets. And you can see it uses its beak with those little comb-like structures that they have on their beak. Isn't that right, Stephen?
Mm-hmm. Help them to filter feed.
Exactly. So when they filter feeding, it helps with that. But in this case, it's just doing an effective job at essentially removing water from the feathers. There's also a little bit of yoga happening with back legs being stretched out and standing on one leg. Quite commonplace to see birds, particularly water birds. I don't know why they do it more than others, but water birds often stand on one leg. You see it with storks and herons and Egyptian geese as well, where they just kind of basically...
They're showing the perching birds that we can't perch very well, but look at what we can do.
Exactly. It's actually quite cool because we can see the feet. Unfortunately, you can't zoom in much further than this without losing quite a lot of quality. But if you look at the feet structure there, you can actually see how broad it is, and you can just make out the webbing at the bottom of the foot itself. So you can see where the two toes go, and there's that little pink fleshy part in between. That obviously helps them to be as good a swimmer or paddler as they are. Without those, they would really struggle. It just increases the surface area and then propels
water. The big fat foot helps with moving through the water, but also makes them easy to identify. Talk about the words duck-footed, pigeon-toed, and if you've ever seen a duck walking, they walk with their toes facing outwards. That's a term that's often given to humans. I walk duck-footed.
Do you? Never noticed.
I've been tracked. My track always just says, Steve, why do you walk like that?
Really?
Yeah, I actually went for some body stress release many years ago, and she tried to correct something in my knee and help me walk a little bit better.
Okay.
If you ever walk on the beach, everybody, have a look back and see how your feet are placed. Your feet should be walking in parallel with each other. They walk facing toes outwards. They're called duck-footed. If they go toes inwards, which a lot of people do as well, called pigeon-toed.
That's right.
Quite interesting. And we see our pigeons and doves walking around like that.
It's very true, actually. I don't know what I am, actually. I've never really noticed. I think I'm a little bit duck-footed. I'm definitely not pigeon-toed. I don't walk on an inward gait, that's for sure. I'll say you're asking, is it a male or a female? Egyptian geese are tricky to tell. It's always easier by the call to tell if it's a male or a female. A male has a... Is it the male honks and the female hisses? Is that right? Or is it the other way around? I always get it confused between the two of them. But physically, there's no real dimorphism between the two. You find that they look pretty much the same. So there we go, the male hisses and the female honks. That's right.
He's just slightly larger with a thicker neck, but you don't really tell that when they're on their
It's
own.
near impossible when it's just one bird. When they're next to each other, you might be able to see it.
Shall we try play the call? And then they
You can
hear
play the call.
difference. So you're ready to listen to my hat.
That's the male. That's the female.
Wonderful birds. The sound is just so amazing. I love waking up to the sound of it.
It's like a hardy-dar, isn't it?
I actually quite like hardy-dars.
Do you?
Hardy-dars have become a little bit of a spirit bird for me over the last couple of months. It's come through very, very strongly because I'm very into earthworms and did all sorts of things down the garden route recently. I'm looking to be getting back into an earthworm business, and the hardy-dar came through very strongly. And what is it the hardy-dars do?
Eat the worms.
Yeah, they burrow their beaks into the ground and they eat worms. So every time I hear a hardy-dar now, and they've been following me around the last couple of months and flying overhead and calling. They've yet to poo on me, which I'm quite thankful for. But they seem to be popping up all over the place, and it's just more affirmations about me continuing to
Do your earthworming.
develop a project I've been wanting to do for a long time. So
This poor bird has just groomed himself, gotten rid of pretty much all the water, and is now being absolutely hammered again by it.
Don't
you
worry,
can see
it's
all the
like
droplets
water.
rolling off the feathers. It's amazing actually to watch.
like water off a duck's back.
Right, and you say the Egyptian geese looks prettier up close? They do, actually. Funny enough, they do have quite nice markings. I mean, they've got these chest feathers that are striated with this kind of reddish-brown back, these white feathers underneath, and then that beautiful sort of iridescent emerald kind of colored feathers that roll on the back or the edges of the wings, and that caramel-colored eye with pink legs. So they do have quite a lot of color to them, and are fairly pretty close up. The problem is that they are actually a bit of a pest. I was talking about it last time when we were on the dam cam, is that they are really starting to take over all over the place. They're spreading like wildfire, these guys. And while they're fairly nice to look at, and their little ones are cute and all these kinds of things, and behaviorally quite interesting, they are a problem because a lot of the more sort of smaller ducks get really outcompeted and chased by these guys, and so you're finding a number of other ducks like African black ducks are struggling a little bit because of the expansion of Egyptian geese.
Yellow-billed as well.
Yellow-bills also becoming fewer and far between. I can't even speak.
It's a lot to do with the fact that man in Africa has put water everywhere, which has facilitated their breeding successes, and at the extent of the seasonality that water would have been. That's a wonderful stretch. Okay, time to swap legs over. Nice, Tristan. Your camera work is definitely much better. Oh, hello.
Hello. We've got both of them. Let's see, maybe we can tell who's male and female. Steve, do you know where the button is for the windscreen wiper thing?
That's the one
Right
just
there.
there. You just got to do it twice.
Wonderful. Sorry about
I think the
little
first one
wiping of
sets
the
it up
lens.
and the second one does it.
There we go. I think these are all just indications that these Egyptian geese are getting uncomfortable with all this rain. Steve, do you want to take this one?
Oh, no, I think that one's all yours, Tristan.
You think so?
Yes.
It's a very long-winded thing, the whole geese versus ducks story, but essentially here in South Africa, we have no true geese. Isn't that correct, Stephen? The only geese that we actually get here that are in South Africa are all imported. And it's to do with a number of factors that when you go into taxonomy, and this is something that Trish absolutely loves, is taxonomy. I don't know how she gets into it, because for me it starts to become like splitting hairs after
She
a
is a
while.
little bit mad, though, after all.
Yeah, Trish is a little bit mad, but in a good way.
We love her, though. We love her.
And so, it starts to become a bit ridiculous at points where it's like, let's say the toe is not pointing at 45 degrees, but at 48 degrees, and that then puts it into a new family, that kind of stuff. So essentially, I'm not even sure the entire kind of details of all of it with geese and ducks, but they just don't have the exact same structures as geese. The name has come about probably because of the size and the fact that they look more similar to geese than a duck.
An Egyptian duck just doesn't have the same ring, does it?
Doesn't. You're right. But it's basically all on that. It's essentially physiological differences between ducks and geese, and then probably find in the naming process, people just use names that they thought, and we know with birds there's been a lot of changes in the names. The birding community is trying to standardize names across the world and try and get names that are more fitting for the birds themselves, and much of that is, if you look at things like a magpie shrike, for example, used to be called a long-tailed shrike here in South Africa, but a magpie shrike somewhere else. And so they're all standardizing these things, and Egyptian goose was probably just something that was used colloquially and is stuck. Maybe in time they'll change it to Egyptian duck at some point. But yes, not a true goose.
So, yeah, that's a very good explanation. So, touching on what we heard before about their expansion and their overpopulation, historically, they were restricted to floodplains and large rivers where, long before agriculture, long before dam development. And in Africa in the early 1900s, a huge agricultural development took place. And huge dam development because of agriculture, because of livestock production, because of wheat fields, grain fields, maize fields. Huge amount of irrigation was required, and the Egyptian geese have just taken to those areas like a duck to water, excuse the very, very obvious pun. And so from a conservation point of view, many of the wetland areas and pan estuary areas and water bodies in South Africa specifically would have been very seasonal and wouldn't have allowed for these fellows to have stayed and remained throughout the year. But now we've got water throughout the country, and Egyptian geese, just like Indian miners in many sort of urban settlements in South Africa, the common or house sparrow, which has become very localized and very domesticated, is all to do with change in habitat availability and change in all sorts of things that have come about through human establishment, human development. So obviously with all the conservation concerns we see around the world, they are all very much in tune with the establishment and development of where we as humans have sort of done what we do. Okay, well, Kyle is still enjoying his wild dogs. We're going to stay here and see what else we can find on the dam cam. Until then, we'll see you shortly.
And then wild dogs are enjoying their snooze right now. They have not moved a muscle. They're taking it very easy. So we'll sit with them for a little bit longer to see what they'll do. Obviously, there's still a chance they could get up and hunt. But if the behavior continues on the same path, we are then going to move off and see what else we can find. Because then they're just going to relax there for the rest of the day and take it easy. So it's more than likely that carcass that they had is more than enough. Painted wolf, how often does the pack make a kill? When they're denning, it can be daily, twice, sometimes daily. They have very distinctive breakfast and dinner times when the alpha female is denning, when they've got pups. And in periods like this now, every day or every second day, on average, they would make a kill. And also depends on what they kill, the size of the animal itself. So if it is something small, maybe a half a day, and if it is something large, it would be 2-3 days they would go between a hunt. But when they are denning, that's when these animals are very mobile to and from the den site, and then they'd be feeding those pups in a very, very aggressive and very quick manner, because basically what you're putting into those pups is what you're going to get out in the next couple of months. And obviously they want them to develop quickly and strongly, so a constant feeding is a very, very important thing. So very distinctive breakfast and dinner times will be had when they are denning. But then besides that, it'll be average. They are very successful hunters. I mean, they have a very high success rate. Their success rate is somewhere around about 80%, and that obviously increases as it gets further into the afternoon. So yeah, every day or every second, third day, these dogs here would generally make a kill, and they could vary depending on area and depending on pack. And that obviously could change and vary across the board. It's not all the same in the book as is in a book. Yeah, this monotonous larks are calling. Tree-choo-choo. Tree-choo-choo. Kathy, why is the pack so small? This would be a new pack that has just joined. They've just gone through the bonding phase, so they are new individuals in Tswalu. And you want to start out small. You don't want to start with a huge pack, because wild dogs are fairly successful when it comes to breeding, and their litter sizes can be very large. I've read accounts of litter sizes being up to 21 dogs. We've had a female in Tswalu that's given birth to 15 pups at one go. So what we've done here is that we've brought in a new pack, new bloodline for Tswalu. And these dogs have been joined up with two original females of the original pack. And it's in the beginning phases like this, periods, let's say that you're going to start off small. You're going to start off with 4 or 5 dogs. Within that small grouping, you'll have an alpha male and female. Obviously, they will have the urge to breed, and then a dominant pair will be established. And from there, they'll have offspring. And then as the pack gets larger, you'll have splinter groups moving off, branching off in the next year or two from this natal pack. But at the moment, it's just an alpha male and female, and then 2 other pack members for this given period. So we haven't grown in population size yet, and that's why they are so small. And as the pack gets bigger, they become more efficient at what they do, and that is chasing down prey. Packs can get up to 30 dogs sometimes. Very, very large packs. Sure. How far can a wild dog see? The eyesight is very good. I wouldn't say as far as a cheetah. I would say less than a cheetah. Cheetah's obviously, its eyes are designed in a manner where it has the remarkable ability to see over a very, very far distance. Wild dogs, I would say they're maybe about the same as our eyesight. So I'd say about 1 kilometer they could spot prey. Moving in the landscape, 1 kilometer, maybe just a little bit less. so haven't got the best eyes around, but very good for what they need. And obviously eyesight would be used to locate prey, but then, like I've mentioned, smell, running into the wind, and then as well as those big, beautiful, almost satellite dish ears. Especially when they're hunting in thick bush, they'll actually use their very cute sense of hearing to pick up where prey is moving through the thickness of things. Just flying in circles here. Just Craig's going to try and get us onto this monotonous lark here. I don't know if you guys have looked at this bird with Moritz. On the small little camel thorn. It's a beautiful lark that comes down into these areas when we have favourable rains. And there is a massive influx of them, just like those wattled starlings this year. And this bird, it has the name, the monotonous lark. And it's busy displaying now, look at that. Wonderful. It's going to go in a circle, it's going to go straight back to that point. Look at that. And hence the name monotonous lark. They can call so much that it does become monotonous. They even call into the night, and even right through the night sometimes. Devin, you like the sound that it makes? Yeah, it can become... Yeah, I've heard of stories and accounts where you have a very high density of these birds in certain areas. And I've heard people say it'll drive you crazy. They just don't stop. Hence their name, monotonous. Sorry. There he goes again. Wow. And then back in a circle. You can see very distinctive wing posture, flaps, and then almost like glides with his wings held up. Here he comes here right in front of us. Great, a new bird for you. We've been having a few beautiful rarities here on Swallow. We had Adam Stork out west the other day. We've been having a few birds, red-footed falcon, and then as well as red-necked falcon as well, which was also a lifer for me. And it's always great when you have these fabled periods and all these other rarely seen birds start moving back into it. It's always very, very entertaining. So those beautiful animals are still resting up on the dune there. Just taking it easy.
I'm glad that Kyle's been seeing lots of birds. We've been trying to look for some birds, but alas, the weather is not conducive to birding.
It's conducive to eating biscuits, though.
Yes, you were tucking into a little biscuit there, weren't you? It was nice. Delicious.
First thing I did when we got back, I knew I was going to be coming in here, made sure my coffee flask was in hand, a packet of biscuits.
Perfect. It's the way to do it. It's one nice thing about being on dam cam duty is the ability to find the kitchen very close by. When one can find the kitchen, one is generally...
But in saying that, the rain was so heavy before that getting from the kitchen to here, half the biscuits got wet.
Oh, that's not ideal.
It's not ideal. But actually, the problem was I realized my window for my room was open. The wind was coming from that side, so I went down when I was already halfway here. And the window was open, as I thought it was. And I just slammed it closed from the outside. So I don't actually know if my bed is wet or not, but that is something to find out later.
Well, that'll be a nice treat if it is. Sorry to say. Anyway, we were looking at weaver's nest there, but the weavers have disappeared. There was a weaver that was around. Just doing a general kind of scan about, trying to see if there's any sort of sign of anything around. I've been checking all the dead trees because in weather like this, you often get the odd raptor sitting up in a dead tree. We know the Wahlbergs that nest pretty much in the middle of the screen now. They nest in a tree there. So sometimes they sit on these dead trees that you see dotted around and take it easy and enjoy the rain from the comfort of
always
a dead
look
tree.
very miserable, don't they?
They look terrible. I sympathize with them, though. It's not fun being out there in the rain, being absolutely pelted by it.
It's quite funny because when you do see them the first time, they look about a third of the size that they normally look.
That's very, very
level.
true. Yes, exactly. Their feathers all compress and they become these sort of shadows of themselves, and they look thoroughly miserable with matted feathers. Not really ideal. All right, so nothing up the hill, nothing in the dead trees. Let's pan back to our dam and see. I was hoping also we would get some herons or bitterns or something, but nothing. Anyway, we'll keep scanning about. We'll keep trying to see what else we can find of interest. Hopefully something will pop up soon.
Well, listening to this beautiful bird call here while we are watching those beautiful dogs, if you look at bird calls and trying to remember them, it can become very tricky. Obviously, the beginning part of birding, learning birds and the variety of them becomes very daunting in the beginning. Same as antelope, same as insects. But then if you give yourself little clues and little tools to beautiful and wonderful calls, it becomes. But if you listen to that bird's call, syrup is sweet. Syrup is sweet. That's what it sounds like. That's a very distinctive call. And a very distinctive call at that. If you can't remember syrup is sweet, then you can just, it's continuous calling behavior as a dead giveaway for the monotonous lark. And this beautiful bird also would be a near endemic. So it's not endemic to South Africa. What is my favorite bird sound? Sure. All of them. I don't think I have a favorite one. I would have to say I'm more intrigued by the sounds that are made non-vocally. Sounds that are made via mechanical form. So birds obviously produce sound, vocal sound, which obviously birds attract mates by, they displace other birds, they ward off predators, but then birds also make another form of sound referred to as mechanical sound. And this is actually done via the wings or the feathers. And some sounds, I promise you would think there's a spaceship coming down from the heavens. Some of these sounds are very, very weird and very strange, but they are a mechanical, which is a very remarkable adaptation or display. Either wing beats or, fluttering the wings so quickly that they vibrate, or passing air through the feathers, that the feathers vibrate and make a certain noise. Very incredible. So African broadbill will be a form of mechanical. African snipe will also be a form of mechanical sound, and a very intriguing and very different form of sound at that. So it doesn't look like these lovely animals are going to be moving very far. They are still just busy relaxing. What is the smallest bird in Tswalu, Victor? It would have to be the Cape Penduline tit, which is also one of the smallest birds in Africa. It's a very, very, I don't think we've seen a Cape Penduline tit yet, but a very tiny, tiny little bird. And the remarkable thing is how it builds its nest. So it's a tiny, tiny bird, only weighing about 7, if I can remember correctly, 7 grams. And then about 9 centimeters, I think it was. A very, very tiny bird. And it's one of the smallest amongst birds within the region. It's like a small warbler-like bird. Actually, let me get in front here. Let me get the book while you guys are busy watching those lovely dogs. Let me show you what this little bird is. But it is found through South Africa. But a very, very small, tiny bird. There we go. All right, so one of the smallest birds in Tswalu would definitely be this little guy here, Cape Penduline tit, the one just below my thumb, and very distinctive. You can see the front or the fronds part of the bird, black and white, tiny little beak, white throat, and that yellow flanks and belly. A very distinctive tiny bird. And you can see the distribution if you go to the left over here, Craig. You can see the distribution is quite widely spread over South and Southern Africa. But yeah, there we go, between 9 and 10 centimeters and only 7.5 grams, a tiny, tiny little thing. That's a very small bird, and one of the smallest with on the African continent. So these guys still relaxing. It looks like they've got a great spot for this morning. So I really don't think they're going to be moving. So we're going to sit here for another 10, 15 maybe. If maybe we're lucky, something wanders in here. But if nothing comes in, I think what we're going to do is we're going to move on. See what else we can show you folks on this wonderful morning. And they're looking very comfy there. Alright, okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to send you over to Tristan on the dam cam.
We are on the dam cam. We're busy looking. I'm sorry that it feels a little bit like a ship in the night because you can see the wind is blowing, and so the dam cam is drifting a bit with the wind. But we're doing a spot of birding. We've managed to find a heron. I was hoping to see a heron, and we've managed to find one that is milling about behind the tree. Hopefully it'll come out. There is also a blacksmith lapwing that is making its rounds through the flooded sections over there. It is now hidden from view, I'm afraid, and our heron is not exactly providing the most stellar view that one will ever see of a heron, hidden behind the tree, which means we're not even going to be able to get focus right. What else is in there? There's something else in there.
Earlier, trying to do the hippos with bushes in the way.
You can control the focus, but there's something else in there. You see that? Is that a black crake? It does look like a black crake.
That does look like a black crake.
Is it a black crake?
Jacana. Oh, it's the white-faced duck.
Steve, did you hear that? I didn't.
I think Christina said something about wild
podcast
from the live African wilderness. Yes, it's like a cricket commentary. We throw back to each other.
Christina, in some ways it is, isn't it? I mean, it is a bit of a podcast safari from the African bush at the moment. So Steve and I are having a bit of a... Oh, let's see if we can track the heron while it flies. No.
And they often
did all right there.
They often call in flight. Have you heard the heron's call before?
Oh, it's a hyena's call.
Have you heard it?
They're not pretty.
Our viewers have heard it before. If you are willing to just quieten down for a moment to have a listen to the lovely call of the grey-headed heron, the grey heron. I much prefer watching them hunt.
Yes, the call is not pretty at all. It's almost like my singing in the shower. I'd imagine that was...
Was that you this morning?
No, it was not me. I was not singing this morning. I don't sing when the rain is falling outside on game drive. I generally, when I wake up and hear the rain, I'm like,
Tristan's room is adjacent to mine, so if he was singing in the shower, I would definitely hear him.
Yes, but if I did sing, it would sound something similar to that, Steve. I have not been blessed with the voice of an angel, I'm afraid, and therefore try not sing as much as possible.
So that means if you don't have a good voice, it's just all looks then, because that's what happens. You either get looks or you
I don't know about that. I feel like I've been shortchanged on both at this stage. Leopard lover, yes, we do. We have a number of birds that mimic other bird sounds. The one that we see the most here that does it is called a fork-tailed drongo. They are excellent mimickers. They mimic all kinds of things. I've heard them mimicking pearl-spotted owlets. I've heard them mimicking... I've got a blank, but there was one other bird that I was thinking of the other day. It's also a predatory bird. Anyway, they are mimickers. It was one of it wasn't a lizard buzzard. I can't remember.
I enjoy the Sabota lark.
They're also great.
The Sabota lark I've heard mimicking a squirrel, which I thought was incredible. I said, what?
That's crazy. It's interesting with the Sabota lark because, it's not like... So the drongo does it mostly for food reasons. So it mimics... dwarf mongoose and meerkats are the two big ones that I was thinking of.
The alarm calls, yeah.
Yes. So they mimic alarm calls of other predators, and that's because when other predators are hunting, finding food, these mimics make that noise of an alarm call, and then they all scatter, and it allows them to come down and grab the food item that was there. So drongos are pretty good at it. Their mimics are not always perfect, though. They sometimes get it a bit wrong. The Sabota lark is a lot more accurate.
But the Sabota throws it into a long-winded, all these noises, and then a squirrel thrown in, and it just keeps going. It is really impressive.
Keep you on your toes, Steve.
Yeah, very impressive. I'm going to play a Sabota lark for you now, everybody, so you can hear. I don't know how elaborate these calls are going to be, but...
very pretty.
Flycatcher in there. Southern black-tip.
Bit of drongo too.
Now these birds have the ability to do that constant call with their sort of syrinx, the ability to blow in and suck at the same time, blow out and suck at the same time. So they have this constant call, almost like circular breathing. If anyone's ever tried to play a didgeridoo, you're able to blow out and breathe at the same time. These birds are able to do that. The songbirds, anyway, and it's a constant stream of noises coming out, and it's very, very impressive to watch. And of course, the Sabota lark, with this enormous array of calls, is not a very pretty bird. A very brown, very
drab,
obsolete, drab. But whenever you hear all these sounds, look to the top of the nearest bush, and you'll see this drab bird standing there chirping its lungs out to advertise to the lady how well travelled. Yes, we might have a kill in progress.
No, heron is half-heartedly hunting. It's a bit like your wild dogs yesterday.
It was a bit of a half-hearted
it's not exactly going
hunting effort yesterday.
Full hunt mode. Anyway, it sounds like Kyle has carried on and has left his wild dogs. And?
I think he's found a bird that likes carrion.
There we go.
Right, so we've left those wild dogs on top of the dune crest, and we could smell this carcass, and we've gotten a bit close, and there's a horde of vultures around it. There's a few more sitting in trees nearby. There's a few that have taken off. About 10, 15 took off already. There's still a lot of them on the ground, but in the mix of things over here, they're all predominantly dominated by white-backed. And then if you take a look on the left-hand side there, just right of that camel thorn, can you punch in any more? Okay, so almost in the center of the vulture with the pinkish facial markings, that is a leopard-faced vulture. One of the largest and then the most dominant of vultures. Very, very heavy bill. That one is walking from right to left. He's got a bit of a stomp to him. Very nice to see. But that bare red skin that he's, or pink skin that he's displaying is very distinctive for that species. And these guys doing what they do best, obviously cleaning up all the mess made from other animals. So this is the carcass that got pulled down more than likely by the spotted hyena last night. And now is a perfect site for these vultures. Timber, do vultures have a call that they make? Yes. Each species of vulture would have its own unique and distinctive call for that specific species. That's a very efficient way on how you can recognize same species. But when you're on the ground like this is kind of one, this is you for yourself. Get in there and get a piece. And obviously, if you look at their heads, or heads and necks being bare, that's a very efficient way of not accumulating debris, because what they do is they actually thrust their head and neck into these carcasses. And if you had a feathered neck and head, well, the feathers wouldn't be too nice after that. So it's a lot more efficient to have a bare face and neck. There's the leopard face on the left-hand side, and then you can see the beautiful white-backed vulture. We do have a third species that comes in, like Cape vulture, but every now and then we see it. Not too often, actually, to be honest. It's a very big vulture, that. That vulture would be at about 6-7 kilograms. Oh, Carl, is a leopard-faced bigger than a whiteback? So this leopard-face is about 6-7 kilograms in body weight, and then your whiteback will only be about 4 kilograms. About 5 kilograms. 5, maybe a bit more, 5.5. So your leopard face is larger than that of the white-backed, which they are sitting here with. So there's two next to each other now. It's a very scary, very creepy looking bird, the leopard-faced. And that heavy bull is obviously designed to tear and rip flesh off from a carcass. And these guys have a very, very important role within the ecosystem. And unfortunately, if you take a look around the country and the continent, the population of vultures is decreasing. And that's where Tswalu has put its foot down. And we have now demarcated Tswalu itself, the whole reserve, as a vulture-friendly area. So everything we do, we obviously think in hindsight for the vultures. Vultures are poisoned across the country and the continent because people believe that they kill animals and they spread diseases, and they're just not liked because of their visual appearance. I don't know why somebody wouldn't like a vulture, but they are heavily. They got a lot of pressure, and they are unfortunately poisoned. So people will actually physically take a carcass and poison the carcass. And then once the vultures feed on the carcass, the vultures die. But if you think about vultures, they are a very important and integral part of the ecosystem, is that they actually remove all the stuff, all the debris that hasn't been already moved from things like jackal. Because if you think about a vulture, they've got a very good sense, a very good eyesight. They've got very good eyesight, and obviously got the ability to soar kilometers up on these high riding thermals. You look at those two fighting there. Wow. And so the vulture's the first thing you had to try and clean up all this debris. And if they weren't here, there would be a lot more diseases around. So we actually owe them a big thank you, and we have to protect them in all aspects. Because they're really doing a very, 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 very important part for us. Alrighty, well, we're going to enjoy this party here for a bit longer, but we're going to send you over to Steve and Tristan, which they are also involved in a birding party.
We are indeed. I was just scanning around to try and see if we can find any other birds lurking in the long grass. Often when you get it rain, oh, there's a hornbill. Hello, hornbill. What are you guys doing down there? Are you foraging? Of course you are, and you're moving out of frame very quickly. That's fine, we'll keep up with you. So you'll find now that the rain is just subsided for a little bit, that these guys are going to come out, or most birds will start coming out and looking for any sign of insects. And it's got something there. What have you got? A snail? A little land snail that it's got? Or is it a beetle?
Likely a beetle. There were quite a few beetles
dung beetles. Yeah.
on the road.
Sorry guys, I'm trying to keep it as steady as possible, but definitely a little dung beetle that it's managed to find. You can see what it's doing. It's using that massive, impressive beak to basically crack. I actually have an idea of where this hornbill's about to go. Please excuse the fact that you're about to be zoomed around pretty quickly. There is a hornbill nest that is located in these trees here. Let's see if our hornbill went there. Steve, we even got a kill, bud. Live. There it went, you see, there it is. It's flying away, so the nest is in those trees. Unfortunately, you can't see nicely the entrance to the nest, and so you can't really get a sense of where the birds are, or you can't really get a sense of the sort of entrance to the nest.
I bet you the birds are drier than we are.
If they're in their nest,
The chicks are, yeah.
Yes, 100%. But we're dry now. Now we're okay. I mean, we're damp now. Let's put it that way. We're not soaking wet, but we are damp. You can see also the clouds. It's quite interesting. These kind of patches of light and dark. You can see where the weather is coming from, that sort of southeastern corner. Some dark clouds again starting to hit the horizon, and you can see a bit of rain far in the horizon. You can see there, right on the sort of edging, there's going to be some more rain about to come now. The next sort of wave is coming in the wind direction that's taking place.
Keegan, I don't think there's going to be lightning. This kind of storm is more of it's a cyclone. It's not a thunderstorm. It's bringing lots of weather from the ocean. This thunderstorms we get here are generally caused by enormous amounts of heat generated from the sun on the surface of the earth, and that causes a lot of evaporation, causes a lot of friction, a lot of electricity, and our thunderstorms can come from all over the place, but they're generally caused by that evaporative effect and the very, very heat.
Listen, there's monkeys alarm calling.
The very hot rays of the sun, so I don't think we'll get lightning.
I heard monkeys alarm calling somewhere in camp. This morning, just before we left, well, not just before we left, at about 20 to 5, there was some bushbuck and nyala barking in the camp. So maybe there is a little spotty cat working around. We did get tracks on our way out as well, didn't we? But they weren't
very wet.
They were very wet and rained on.
And the impalas were not happy with life.
So maybe there is a little spotty friend. So I don't know if I heard them from here in camp or if I heard them from the dam camp, but the dam camp's audio is so good that generally if you hear it on the dam, you'll hear it on the dam cam better than you'll hear it in real life. The other day was amazing because the dam cam was picking up lion contact calls and roars, and it was, said to be quite close. But as we know, the lions were actually in Arathusa, which is incredible that they were able to.
Than we thought.
Much, much further than we thought. Now why camera are you not focusing? There we go, I've got it to work. But you can see there's our Egyptian geese pair. I mean, we were, like I say, doing a spot of birding. Here comes the wind. Gotten a lot windier all of a sudden. You can actually see the plants in the background, how much they're blowing around. They're being shifted and moved everywhere. All right, well, we'll keep having a look around. We'll keep trying to see if we can find some signs of interesting things to talk about. In the meantime, let's send you to Kyle and his cleanup crew.
All right, and that cleanup crew is doing a very important job. If you think about these animals, obviously they would be feeding by primarily being scavengers. This is a feeding method where you would allow large or other animals to to obtain food, and basically you come in and clean up all the scraps. So the role that they're playing for the ecosystem is very important. And you'd find that these birds will actually follow things like kites and crows, battaliers, even lions at times. They'll follow lions because they know that the lion's in the area, lion's going to make a kill, and they could have a potential meal themselves. So obviously taking up into the air and using thermals to ride these vertical columns of air, an updraft of air, where they can move kilometers and kilometers a day in search of food. Obviously, it's a very efficient way of moving around, looking for these scattered items. And then when you're on a carcass like this, you can see from these two species that we've been looking at over here, the leopard face and as well as the whiteback, is that each species of vulture has a very specific role. Some vultures are very aggressive, where the whiteback is fairly aggressive, but it's small size. It'll won't dominate very large species. I would see the whiteback being so dominant that it would actually dominate the leopard face. You can see the leopard face is actually having a back seat there. And so if you look at the vulture species themselves, they're all playing a role. They all have a niche in and around the carcass. So if you're looking at these whiteback vultures now, these whiteback vultures will mainly be going after soft mammalian tissue. They don't like the hardier bits and pieces of the carcass, and they also don't have the bill structure in order to get into other pieces. So, and then if you look at the leopard face, Craig, could we go to the leopard face vulture there, please? So that whiteback, mainly flesh and organs, little soft parts, soft bits and pieces of a carcass. But then if you look at leopard face, it would be going for hardier things because of that massive bill that it has. And that bill allows it to get into, or allows it to feed on items that is left behind. So this leopard face would be going after hardier items that are seldom used by other animals. And it would be things like tendons. They're going after tendons that's in between the actual bone itself. And you need quite a strong beak in order to remove a tendon off of bone. And then ligaments as well. That's also another thing that this beautiful bird will be going after. And that heavy bill enables that bird to take and remove those food items off that carcass. So each species has a very specific role at this carcass. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name there, Final Control, but I got the question, are some vultures nocturnal? No. All vultures, I think, worldwide would be diurnal. They are fairly large birds. I mean, to move 5 odd kilograms, to achieve flight, that's quite an energy. It's quite a huge energy expense to move 5 kilograms in the air. And flight is a very consuming activity. And so if you think about these birds and how they move hundreds of kilometers, it's by using these updrafts of air, thermals. And thermals are very strong and very active through the daylight period. So for a vulture to move under the cover of darkness, it's a very, very difficult task. So by my knowledge, I could be mistaken, but definitely in South Africa, all vultures are diurnal, so daytime operating. They need heat in order to move from a nest site out to a carcass and back again. If one or two of them do fly off, we'll be sure to pin it, and then you'll see that how much energy that bird is expending by actually physically taking flight. Their wings are designed for catching air instead of general flying. Very, very large and broad wings. So that was a really great question asked there. Are there vultures that are nocturnal? So yes, so movement, they would be obviously restricted in a sense, and then as well as eyesight. Their eyes are not designed in a manner such as, look at the left there, there's one flying. Look how much energy and look how big those wings are for that bird to be flying. So this is where they need heat to allow that bird to travel a great distance. Look at that. Oh no, behind the tree. I wonder if I should pull forward for us a little bit there. That was the leopard face that flew off there. Yeah. Let's go slightly forward, yeah? There's a lot of them sitting in that tree. So yeah, so definitely heat is a big requirement to move a bird of that size, but then they just do not have the eyes equipped to see under the cover of darkness. To see a carcass like that, you know, you would need very, very large eyes. Oh, wow. All oryx are running there now. That's two white-backed. Ooh, Maria, at what age do juvenile vultures start scavenging for themselves? Sure, I'm not too sure on an age. Let me just think about this practically for 2 seconds here quickly while we enjoy those two white-backed vultures. So they would be with the parents. Obviously, the parents would guide them and kind of train them. But when would they start eating? They're scavenging on carcasses. Whew. It'll definitely be after the fledgling period, so when the bird will take flight. Yo, great question. I think I'm going to have to look that up for you. Obviously, parents would bring food back to the carcass, back to the nest, back to the carcass, back to the nest. But I'd have to take a look at what age they would start moving off from a nest site and actually physically feeding on a carcass by themselves. That's a great question. I'm going to get my little notepad out quickly for you so that I don't forget to check that up. That is a great question. It's all those little intriguing things that people think on different lines of that I would have never thought of that question. But being together on a very large spectrum like this, everybody's thought process is so different, which makes the world such a beautiful place. To think about how many different thought patterns and processes there are. And a train of thought. What age? But I'll be sure to give you an answer as soon as possible. How long is a bull of a vulture? Oh, I would say at about 7-8 centimeters long, depending on the species as well. Obviously, some species like that leopardface that we've been looking at, that has a very, very large bull. And then your smaller ones would be these guys here, the white-backed. So I would say that bull is about 7-8 centimeters, maybe a little bit more. 7-8 centimeters in length from the sear to the tip. Yeah, about, let's say, between 8 and 10 centimeters in length. I mean, if Craig can get us onto these ones over here on the ground over here, you can see the heavy build of that bull. Even though that these individuals are going for soft mammalian tissue, the organs, heart, lungs, that type of stuff. There's also recordings of going for the eyes. It's also soft tissue. It's a fairly hefty bull that bird has got on it. Very efficient way of moving by hopping there. And you can see how aggressive they are with each other. That's a very aggressive posture. Running up to a member, and then you can see how that bird has its wings splayed out to give the individual a bit more of a dominating appearance. And they can get into quite a squabble at a carcass like this. This is a very special sighting for me, folks, with you right now. I don't think I've ever had the luxury of sitting this long and watching vultures on a carcass. Obviously the vultures here are found a bit more to the west. We found a few there on that giraffe carcass a couple of weeks ago. But across the board, they're very shy. They see the vehicle and they just tend to take off. Okay, we're going to enjoy this over here for a little bit longer. We're going to send you off to Tristan, where he's got Egyptian geese.
Now with the Egyptian geese, because there is just so much rain hammering down that nothing else is visible at this stage. I mean, you can see it there. It really is coming down in sheets at the moment. It's raining very hard. So what we kind of thought was that we just kind of see the geese with the rain a little bit, and hope that, you know, eventually things will settle down. But the way that it's going at the moment is that it's looking increasingly less likely that we'll even get out on drive this afternoon. I was just looking at some satellite images to try and figure out how the rain's going to fall, and it just looks as though it's going to get kind of steadily worse through the day. But that's okay, because that means that maybe Steve and I, we're going to try and see if we can set up some sort of a makeshift studio, and we'll do all kinds of cool things. I was thinking about maybe doing updated territorial maps for leopards and lions. That'd be quite fun. Steve is thinking about doing his medicinal Monday on a Sunday.
I can draw a map of where I've gotten stuck lately.
So what can we call it if it's not medicinal? What's another word for medicinal?
Well,
it starts with an S.
There'll definitely be a medicinal Monday tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, if we still can't go out tomorrow morning. Okay.
But we can still do breakdowns of
we can do
plants,
grasses, we
individual
can do
aspects and elements of things.
Awesome. That'll be fun. So
Diagrams. I've been focusing on leaves and different types of leaves, so we can really get into the nitty-gritty of those things with a steady cam in a nice lit area.
Perfect. Sounds good. So that's what we're going to try and do, and we'll kind of bounce between the dam cam and those kinds of things. I think this afternoon that's the plan, at least from Steve and our side. So if there's anything you guys want us to cover that we can do for you, it's kind of diagram based or information based, that is not something we generally do on Drive, then I think just let FC know.
Let FC know.
And we'll try and see what we can kind of pull out of the hat for this afternoon. But it's crazy. I was just telling Steve now that today is the kind of, I started at Wild Earth 4 years ago today.
Hey!
It's been a long road.
Can you stand up and give us a bow, please, Tristan?
I can, Stephen. But
He's
hang on,
standing up
otherwise,
and he's doing a bow.
otherwise my...
salute to you.
There we go.
Sir.
Salute. Thank you very much.
Many of you gentlemen back home met Tristan for the first time 4 years ago today. Can you believe it?
Yeah, crazy. It's been, like I say, been a good journey, but a long journey in some respects.
You could have got a PhD in that amount of time.
I could have. I feel like I did get a PhD.
Yeah, I think you did.
In how to be on a camera in a game drive situation and spend time with
They were
leopards.
handing out PhDs for leopard tracking. I reckon you definitely...
I don't know about the tracking, but hours spent with them, maybe. Certainly put in a few hours with leopards over the years. But I mean, this weather is just insane. It's getting worse. So look at this.
I'm almost certain that the water's overflowing there now.
Now, the reason why I'm not turning the camera to the south is because the rain's coming from there, and as soon as I do that, you can't see anything because the lens gets completely wet. If we face it in this direction, the rain is kind of sweeping across, and so we have less of an effect. But, I mean, that is seriously torrential rain for 8:15 in the morning. That's bucketing down. James, I'm certainly hoping so. I'm on the lookout for rare birds. There will be rare birds somewhere. I think
birds, eh? Coming in. Seabirds.
Seabirds. I think you're going to find Mozambique are going to start, as soon as it clears, they're going to start to report some interesting birds. I wouldn't be surprised the odd Madagascan cuckoo arrives again. There are two in South Africa at the moment, but it wouldn't surprise me if another one or another few start to show up in this area.
Palearctic birds, terns.
Terns, the odds. Let's actually have a look to the south and east towards Mozambique. The odds. Oh, there's a waterbuck.
Hey, there he is. I had him in the opening shot and I lost him with some very bad camera
work. You can see how the rain affects the lens when we pan to the south. But sandpipers. There might be some interesting little sandpipers that show up. I wouldn't be surprised to see white-winged terns. Sorry guys, the rain's causing.
And that's what we feel like when we're driving in this. Trying to focus.
That's how it looks. Yeah,
with the blinkers on our eyes. It's
exactly
pleasant.
Do you know I think we should actually, Stephen, if you and I had to develop something that we would want to be inventors, maybe little windscreen wipers for your eyeballs.
That would be wonderful.
I mean, I know we have eyelids that do the job pretty well, but it would be nice to have a little windscreen wiper. Oh, Marcel's come with gifts.
Has brought chocolate.
Sally Williams chocolate nougat thing. Thank you, Marcel. Stephen, is it any good? Oh, you haven't tried it yet. No, eating and presenting is generally not a great idea. Yeah. No, exactly. So thank you, Marcel. Marcel's looking after us. That waterbuck looks miserable. Colder rainfall in South Africa is measured in millimeters. I know in some parts of the world they measure it in inches, but it's measured in millimeters here in South Africa. But today we're probably going to be measuring it in meters.
54.8 already.
So we've had 54.8 millimeters of rain already this morning, which is a lot. I think we're already well over our average rainfall for the year. I think we're normally around 600 is for this area is average rainfall. And I think that we probably, the last time I checked, I think we were close to 600 already. So we'll be, after this cyclone, probably go well over 800. In 2012, when we had the last serious floods in this area, we went over 1,000 that year. So that was pretty crazy. But, I mean, this is very, very good.
That goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning of the dam cam segment, was that once the ground is completely saturated, there's nowhere else for the water to go but over land, and that is when damage starts getting caused. Heavy rain like this starts to lead to flooding.
I'll go and check your outflow and just have a look to see
lots of problems.
If we can actually see if it's, I mean, there in that corner, it's starting to go out. You can see that there is an overflow taking place. Is it overflow or is it just sand? No, branches stopped.
I think it's much lower on this far side.
Yeah, so it's not going out there yet. It does go out there when it really rains. And
so it's not really raining yet, is what you're saying?
Yes, I mean, we're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. Trust me, in 2012, it was quite something to witness. I can't see, Steve, if it's actually going out of that yet. It doesn't look like we can see very well. Sorry, that's the windscreen wiper just trying to clear it. No, we can't see very well. All right, we're going to carry on scouting about in what is difficult conditions even for the dam cam. And in the meantime, let's send you across to Kyle. I think he's still spending time with his vultures.
Soon I need to send Tristan a little rubber ducky to get from point A to point B. I hope everybody is safe that side, and obviously we can never complain about rain. It is such an important element. But when it's raining like that, put your cozy on and get wet. If it's raining, go stand outside. Where do you just have the opportunity of standing outside in the rain, feeling the rain on you? It's a wonderful thing. It's something that we relish in here in the Kalahari, in the southern Kalahari. When we have rain, we really enjoy it. We go outside like kids and run around, and it's a bit scary with lightning and all that type of jazz, but yeah, it's lovely. So vultures, very good question asked before. At what age would a young start feeding on a carcass, I would have to get back to you on that one. So adults do feed young at a nest site via regurgitating, bill to bill. They call it bill to bill regurgitating. That'll be through obviously contents that are held within the crop, which is basically like a little carry-on bag for birds. A crop is a very efficient bodily part. Is that when you're at a feeding site like this, you need to get your full very quickly and get out there. If it is a very intense site, or if there's a lot of individuals, so the crop is like your first compartment before you get to the stomach. And birds will normally fill up the crop, go to a spot where they feel safe, and that's where they would obviously digest the material. But for birds that have chicks, they would hold that material in the crop, they'd go back, and they would then initiate bill to bill. So basically the adult putting its bill towards the young, and then regurgitation will happen. But when they start feeding on a carcass, great question. Gonna have to get back to you on that one. But really amazing birds found mainly within the tropics and subtropics, obviously where you have these big convection cells and a lot of heat. But really remarkable birds around the world. Amanda, how many vultures breed per year? That's how I got the question. I think how many times would they breed a year? They would breed once a year, I would think. In places where there's high productivity at a constant medium, they could maybe have one brood a year. A bird this size, you'll see that the nesting period will be quite long to obviously allow this young one to develop. But I'd say one brood a year, if that, maybe, one brood in a year, a single brood. Obviously you need to put in a lot of time and energy into this young one, so it's very time consuming. And obviously, depending where you are in the country, or that also vary on when they breed. Fiona, do vultures fly higher than eagles? Vultures' wings are designed in a remarkable manner to give that bird maximum lift. So I would say it depends. There are some high-flying eagles, but they are by far one of the highest soaring birds. When they're at their top altitude, they look like little tiny black dots in the air. But I would be incorrect by saying they are one of the highest, because I'm not 100% sure. These are all new questions for me, but I would say they are among the highest soaring birds, obviously riding this updraft of thermal currents. But we're getting the very, very strong scent of the carcass now, because they've opened up obviously the stomach, and the wind direction has changed now south-southeast, so that smell is coming straight towards us. Pungent smell. But now you would find that, I don't know how we don't have a jackal in here yet, to be totally honest with you. Obviously jackals' little nose is very efficient. Oh, look at these springbok fighting here, just holding their fix. Got two springbok rams chasing each other. It's a little group, and there was two males just displacing one another, putting horns to horns and basically seeing who's the strongest. And what a beautiful contrast, that very pale light animal against the backdrop of this uniform green landscape at the moment. and enjoy this, and then I think we're going to move off shortly, but we're going to send you over to Tristan and Steve where they've got a waterbuck for us.
Well, we are sitting, still watching the rain slowly fall on poor Waterbuck, who doesn't actually seem too fazed by it, if I'm really honest. This Waterbuck is just slowly kind of ruminating and chewing the cud and generally just taking it easy, standing with its feet in the water. I suppose if anyone was equipped to handle this weather, it would be these guys. They would be fairly okay, considering how their coat works and the fact that they have an ability to repel water slightly.
Well, he's definitely looking in better shape than his fellow last night.
Yes, shame.
I never noticed, though, how
Do we want to actually talk about last night, Stephen?
Waterbuck's leg is. What happened last night? Just in the Talavati Pride caught a male waterbuck, which
Yes.
they ate.
And do you want to tell us about the events of leading up to you finding that?
Yeah, well, we found tracks of the Talavati Pride on Philemon's Dip cut line, heading up Ingwe Alley, and I called the tracks in, and I followed them for quite some time, and anticipated their movements, picked up on the tracks again on Vulture's Nest, going down Central, which is really nice to see, and then found 4 of the youngsters, which was quite an amazing tracking feat, I must say. Yeah.
And then?
And then I actually insulted them, which was probably my downfall, because they were trying to follow their family, and they were sniffing around in the bush, and I was looking at the road going, the tracks are right here, lions, surely you can follow the tracks. And then they started following them, and I said, I wish I could follow lion tracks with my nose. And then they went off into the bush that was about chest height with regards to grass. And I tried to follow them for a while. I lost them within about 30 seconds. And I was driving around, I think we did a segment about that lovely off-road segment, and then I found a beautiful track in the mud of this lioness going in the direction, so I followed. And I went down a drainage line that in normal conditions, I suppose I would have had no problem going through. But I think I might have misjudged the depth of the vegetation in that drainage line. And I take full responsibility for the fact that I tried to turn around to get out of the drainage line. And suddenly the traction on the very, very well designed 4x4 vehicle decided it didn't like the ground that I was on, and decided to say, you guys are not going anywhere.
No, you certainly were quite well wedged in there. You always know when there's a bit of a problem when somebody comes over the radio and says, I'm not sure you're going to get me out, I'm wedged in. That's always a cause for concern, and when we arrived there, Theo and I went to try and help out because Steve was in a bit of a tough spot that cruisers couldn't get to, could they? So it was only really our little short wheelbase Land Rover that could get in there. And when I arrived, Steve was looking fairly chipper and chirpy and quite happy because he had found the lions, which were, at this stage, feeding on a kill fairly close by, weren't they?
They were. We could hear them.
We could hear them and could see them.
So I didn't know it was a waterbuck at all.
Yes, we didn't know it was a waterbuck. But anyway, we rolled up in there, and Steve was looking fairly chirpy. And Paul, on the other hand, not so much.
He wasn't looking very happy.
He was looking ghost-like when we saw him. He was not looking that chuffed with the fact that they were stuck in this drainage line with lions on the bank above them, making all kinds of lion noises as they do when they're in.
And when you're in a sighting like that for the first time, and you suddenly realise that there's a helplessness to your vehicle not being able to move, I suppose you have to resign yourself to it. But
well, the problem is that's, and so when we got back to camp, we were actually laughing about it because Steve and I kind of was just, oh well, it's another day. But we've become so used to the life out here, and that the fact that they were making all that noise and how kind of crazy it is, it's almost, you kind of just carry on. Whereas I think for Import it was a very real realization that yes, we're in the wild and yes, we're on these vehicles, but we are in an area with dangerous animals and things can become quite tricky when you in a drainage line and stuff like that. And so the
guttural sounds the lions were making were really rocking his body and soul.
Yes,
and he was feeling a little bit helpless.
Exactly. And
although we were perfectly safe on the vehicle, he
exactly.
had some doubts.
Exactly. And then it was quite a mission to get you out, but we got you out in eventually, which was good. Rusty did a sterling job.
Yes, Rusty did.
To get Steve out, and we managed to save the day, and you managed to actually go and see the lions.
We did. We actually got around to see the lions, and that was what was so amazing. Is then we're sitting with the lions, and those of you who joined us on the show last night would have been with me talking about the lions again as they were still making some noises. And I asked him, Paul, how he was feeling. And now that the vehicle was in control and we could move it, he felt completely normal and completely okay.
Sorry,
but it was just that slight lack of control of knowing that the car's stuck and we can't go anywhere with it. That I think some people that can lead to certain anxiety. So he was feeling that a little bit, but
it's okay. It's understandable completely. Like I say, you and I have become, I think, a little bit blasé to some of this stuff because we spend so much time out here. But it was just fascinating to watch the kind of psyche of somebody who's getting used to, being out and how intimidating lions on a kill actually are. I'm sure this waterbuck would agree. It wasn't being absolutely hammered with rain and could hear us. In the meantime, though, we're going to just sit here and see what else comes down.
Well, these vultures are still enjoying breakfast. And just looking at my multimedia app, looking in my book, vultures are one of the highest soaring birds there are. They can reach extraordinary heights. So just to that question was asked, I wasn't 100% sure and I didn't want to give out incorrect information, but they are one of the highest soaring birds there are. Obviously that design, that wing design, is the way in which these birds ride those thermals to those crazy heights. So if you're afraid of heights, you wouldn't want to be a vulture. So what we're going to do is we're going to start the vehicle and we're going to putter along south. They are going to take off. It's our only way out here. And we've spent quite a while with these wonderful birds. So what we're going to do is just putter along slowly. They're going to take off and they're more than likely going to go roost in these trees over here and then come straight back down once we've moved out. Looks like quite a young, it's not a young kudu, it's quite a decent kudu. And they're all gone. It's a shame for the kudu, but very important. This is obviously a very important site now for lots and lots and lots of creatures. We see it as an word, the poor kudu, but it is basically like a hub right now. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a little investigation to see how many species we can pick up over here, and then also to see if we can pick up any spotted hyena tracks, because it's what the guide said could possibly.
Well, it seems at least the sky is lightening up a bit in places. There's still some dark clouds here and there, but the kind of view that we have now is a little bit lighter. Steve, yesterday was not an isolated incident for this week, was it?
What are you talking about?
Being stuck. How many times this week?
No, it wasn't. It was 3 times this week, but one was just ridiculous.
I know, but what's amazing is that you didn't get stuck for years.
I haven't been stuck.
You managed to negotiate the Masai Mara during quite a wet period.
I haven't been stuck yet.
And then this week, 3
times. But the time with Marcel was at the end of show. Tundi and her cub were there, and the cub came down the tree and moved towards a log, and the show was over. I was done. I could go home, but I wanted to just move forward a meter and take a photograph. And so I moved forward a meter, and a sinkhole developed in front of my right front wheel. And my coffee flask fell off the car, my glasses, my cup. Marcel made some noises I'm not going to repeat on the show. And we found ourselves in a hole that wasn't there a moment before.
Well, luckily you stayed on the car, because the last time I met a hole like that, I fell out. So
what happened?
I fell out of the vehicle. Okay. I actually didn't meet a hole, I met a stump.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I don't know many of the the viewers if they've heard or seen this story?
I think the whole world has heard or seen it. I cannot go anywhere without somebody
Even the
asking.
hippo's laughing.
Exactly. I promise you I cannot go anywhere without somebody bringing it up. It's unbelievable. I think I've watched, if I have to go look at the number of views on that particular video, I reckon about 1,000 are just from me, having to show multiple people in fits of hysterics. But anyway,
I think the difference between...
we just lost our lights.
Yeah, there goes our Eskom load shedding again. What I think happens, though, I mean, the difference between me and you is that you were driving at a decent speed.
Yes.
And I basically just engaged and drove forward a meter, half a meter, and just descended. So I think if I'd been driving, I would have had the same fate as you did, because I practically fell out the car as well. But my firm hands were holding the steering wheel quite strongly. But Marcel nearly fell off the back.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you guys managed to survive it. I don't even know if anyone can hear us anymore because I see our dam cam is frozen. We've lost power, which is to be expected. So hopefully someone can hear us and will let us know.
Hopefully someone's enjoying the commentary.
Yeah, so someone can hear our nonsense that we're talking at this stage.
Well, Tyler, yesterday was not an isolated event for me this week. The event we're talking about, when I fell into the hole with Marcel, there happened to be a vehicle with us at the time. So I just looked at him and he came and pulled me out, which was quite helpful. And then the same evening, the same day, I was on my way home and there was elephants in the road. So I decided to turn around on one of our main roads, main road. I wanted to turn around because the elephants were just going to delay us to come home. So lesson learned, always allow elephants to delay you. It's a process. So I tried to turn around and I reversed into a mitre drain and the vehicle just got stuck. It was the most ridiculous of incidences, but that's what happened. So I had to call Tristan to come and give me a hand. And then yesterday, I couldn't directly get hold of Tristan on the radio, so I had to talk on the radio and the whole of the reserve mobilized, maybe more in personality and voice than in actual spirit, but there were a few people that were there to help me, which is quite embarrassing from time to time.
It's not nice when everyone's...
It's not nice. It's nice when you get stuck momentarily and you manage to get out and then you share this experience later. But I think that moment when I turned to Mpo on the back of the car and I said, "I'm sorry, brother," that's when he felt a complete loss of control. That's when the lines started to affect him emotionally. And at that point, everyone was trying to help me on the radio. And all I wanted was really to just get Tristan there as quietly as possible
which would have been
the least amount of radio communication. So yes, there's been 2 radio calls this week. But
you know what? Things happen in threes. So I feel like you're done now.
I'm done now.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Network abnormal is the notice I've just gotten about the dam cam.
It seems like the dam cam has decided to shut down for a moment. So we are going to try and load it all up. But it sounds like... sounds like Carl has found a kudu who's probably fallen to a similar fate as our waterbuck yesterday evening.
The dogs, yeah, plenty.
And we're not sure exactly what's happened with his kudu there, but you're back with us, and I'm not sure if you're actually able to even see the dam cam.
We're not, so we'll just blindly narrate the dam cam. I think it'll be quite fun. But we have our tech genius, Marcel, coming here, so what should we talk about at the dam cam without actually being able to see it? Marcel is looking at me with like, what have you done? I feel like...
My power went off, so waiting for BLTL Jenny to start.
It's waiting for the generator to start. Now, Marcel has walked in here like an undertaker with his coat on. I thought maybe I was about to get hit over the head for breaking the it.
And a mouthful of chocolate, it seems.
Yes, your chocolate was delicious. Thank you, Marcel. It was most welcome. It wasn't actually chocolate. It was chocolate-coated nougat.
Oh, I haven't
dark
gotten to mine
chocolate-coated
yet.
nougat. It was very good. So that was nice. Thank you, Marcel. But we'll wait for the dam cam to come up. But what else can we talk about stories-wise this week? Steve, what else has happened this week?
Well, what we can talk about for sure is the fact that the lions are on the property. We've had buffalo briefly on, and we're almost certain with the rains that have come already before today that the grass is at such a record-breaking height that it's very likely that we're going to have huge herds of buffalo on the property, but also that there's probably going to be a very, very big need for some fire management this coming season. Because the grass is head high in places, and the amount of tree stumps I was having to navigate yesterday was quite incredible. But anyway, we seem to have Tswalu Kalahari back online, and Kyle is desperate to talk about the fate of his kudu.
All right, just for anybody with wheezy or not strong stomachs, just it is an animal that has been taken down, so it's the natural way of things. And just to look at the life that this carcass has in and around it right now is astounding. So everything from the very beautiful to a little bit so weird. And see a lot of butterfly activity. There is a painted lady on the right-hand side of frame on the leg of that kudu. Is that a painted lady? Yes, it looks like it. Let me just take a look with the bins quickly. Oh, it's gone. Yes, it is a painted lady. So there's a lot of them at the moment, and lots of African monarchs. And they're visiting this carcass for moisture. There'd be a lot of moisture content. That leg doesn't look so good, eh, Craig?
I don't think he'll walk again.
You don't think he'll walk again? That leg doesn't look right to me. This is where this animal could have been at a disadvantage, and you need that. If you're suffering, you'd want just a quick way out. But that front right leg doesn't look so healthy. That looks very swollen, and it wouldn't have increased in size after the animal's killed. That only breaks if you have that only swells if you have a fracture and you have a little bit of infection, and then obviously you get swelling. But look at all the activity of the butterflies. So water, moisture would be a very, very important thing here now, and then other important minerals and elements for the healthy functioning of muscles and body reproduction is very important. So a carcass like this is so vital for a host of different species now. So one thing that those butterflies could be taking up is sodium, very, very important for healthy muscle function. And then you can see all the little creepy crawlies to the right-hand side of the screen. Those are all dung beetles. So now that this carcass has been opened up by last night, more than likely the hyenas, a little bit of the wild dogs this morning, and now the vultures, you would have had a lot of debris that would be, or a lot of elements that would be taken out from that kudu. And especially the stomach, where you would have obviously broken down material, vegetative material, which these dung beetles are happy to take away. Obviously used for feeding. Dung is used for feeding for adults, both male and female, but then also the male rolls a beautiful ball, which you folks would have seen quite a lot in the past couple of days, that nuptial ball, which is remarkable. But then another individual now that will distribute all this material from this carcass. Flies would come in, they would also take up the moisture, lay eggs. Whoa, Gregory, what animal would feed on the skin? Not a lot of animals feed on skin, because if you look at the skin, Gregory, the hair is a very, very hard thing to break down. You'd have animals, taking chomps of it. So when the animal unfortunately died last night from the spotted hyena, when they took a few bites out of it, there would be some skin and hair taken. But you find skin really just left behind along with the bones. The keratin is a very hardy substance to break down. And if you think about the hyena's stomach, it has digestive juices that are more corrosive than that of acid. And not even that can break down that keratin, that hair, which would just be regurgitated as a ball or be passed through the digestive system and out the rear end. And you could see it in the fecal matter. It's a very, very hardy substance to break down. But everything else would be utilized and redistributed from this lovely animal, which obviously gives life to everything else now. Its life has been taken, but the life that will be created from this over here is tremendous. So flies, you get a lot of flies in here now, which obviously lay the eggs. The maggots then would feed, they would develop and then become flies. The butterflies, obviously the moisture, the elements, you would have certain beetles utilizing this carcass as well, feeding on the carcass, bits of the skin, mites, but all in all, basically like a massive food web. This is the starting point of this massive food web now, is this kudu carcass. And from here, it'll be redistributed out into the field. Jackal should be in here a bit later. I don't know why we don't have a jackal here. It's pretty remarkable. And those vultures will definitely come back in as soon as we leave this area. But a lot going on here right now. So a big dung beetle in the central part of the frame coming towards us. You can see just the activity of them. They'll be drawn in by the smell here of the contents of the rumen, or the chambered stomach. The rumen will be the first chamber in this beautiful rumination process. And all the contents in it is what these beetles want. There's a lot of flowers. I can see some blister beetles as well. There's small butterflies coming in and out. Another big dung beetle. And you can see in the background that beautiful sour grass just being illuminated by the beautiful sun. Look at that. It has got a beautiful sheen to it as well, because the plant has poison glands. Amber, would a lion or cheetah feed on this carcass? A lion, without a doubt. A lion scavenges more than it actually kills. People have a very strong notion that they only kill animals. Lions scavenge. They will take an easy meal. A cheetah, Amber, not so much. A cheetah you wouldn't really find at a carcass like this, because if a cheetah comes in here and is feeding on this carcass, there's a very high risk that that cheetah could be caught off guard. And at this point in time, the carcass has been laying here for a little while, so there could potentially be other larger carnivores in the area. And if that larger carnivore catches that cheetah, it's not going to be good. So a lion, definitely. Hyena, absolutely. But a cheetah, not so much. Would scavenge and eat the remains of this. Later on, jackal will be in here, more likely towards the end of the afternoon. And then under the cover of the darkness, we might have a brown hyena being drawn in by this carcass, the scent of this carcass. They have a very efficient sense of smell. But look at that. Ew. And if you look at butterflies, one would think, it's not a strong flying animal, although they are very accomplished flying insects. David, they'll be just drawing up moisture and minerals. If you think about the elements that this animal has created within its body, now all those elements and minerals are being leached or from the decomposition process. These butterflies will be using their rolled up tube-like mouth called a proboscis, and they would be lapping up minerals and moisture from this carcass. I've found butterflies on various forms of scat even. Lion poo, lion scat, hyena scat, wildebeest droppings. There is essential minerals and elements that they would need. And if you have an available free site of it, why not? It's very, very important. So like I said, sodium would be a very big thing here. Sodium they'd find from a carcass like this, or even at a watering hole. Obviously, important for the functioning of muscles. But all the other animals, it's feeding time. So obviously it depends on your mouth structure. That would obviously be determined if you could eat here or not. But we're going to leave this wonderful site. We're going to continue, but for now we're going to send you over to Tristan at that beautiful dam.
Indeed it does. It's quite fascinating watching the different animals feeding off carcasses from, even just vultures, and how their different beak shapes afford them the ability to eat certain things in certain places. I mean, if you look at hooded vultures versus a leopard-faced vulture, two very different parts of the carcass are being fed on by those guys, given their beak structure. And I know some of you are asking about seeing the old pan. So we've got, if you have a look here, you've actually, let me run through this quickly. So you've got the main dam, which is actually known as Gowrie Dam. It's often referred to as Vuyatela Dam. It's not the name of that dam. That dam is actually Gowrie Dam. This was Vuyatela Pan in the middle of the frame with the logs around it. This was taken out because it wasn't sealed properly, and so there was a huge amount of loss of water taking place at that dam, and so they reconstructed a new dam that is properly sealed, which is this one here, and this is now known as Vuyatela Pan, and the dam is Gowrie Dam. Vuyatela Pan itself is that one there. It's a little bit further afield.
Now it's all collectively known as the Vuyatela Wetland System.
Yeah, it is a wetland system now. But it was moved closer to the camp too, so that, it's better viewing in the dry season, although there's going to be no issues now with water going forward this particular winter. I always get sad when I look at this pan because it just reminds me of times with Hosana. How many times have we spent hours at this little pan watching him go about his business? I mean, I know Tandi, Kalamba, Tingana, they've all spent time there, but no one was like Hosana when it came to dominating a little pan for days and days and days.
Terrorizing the animals.
Terrorizing the animals, yeah, exactly. And providing us with endless entertainment, and those of you that watch the Dan Campbell regularly, lots of entertainment. I don't know why. It sounds like my microphone is giving issues again. Sometimes these mics, I suppose maybe it got a bit damp this morning, so it's having a little bit of a struggle. But you can see the rain has stopped briefly. That light patch of sky is obviously over us now. You'll see as I pan to the right. Let's give our little lens a wipe quickly. Sorry about that. You can see that it's lighter, but there is some dark clouds coming, and I want you to pay attention to how fast those clouds are moving. It's amazing to see how quickly these waves of rain are coming in. There's still a lot of rain on the way. It's not going to be finishing anytime soon, even though there's a break now. It seems like this afternoon there's still going to be a lot hanging around into tomorrow, and as far as Thursday we'll be getting showers. So it's going to be a wet week, but that's okay. It's the way it goes. There we go. The rain is now starting once again. You can see those droplets starting to fall as the heavier clouds come over with the wind. Steve, I thought sitting in FC, I'm going to be dry, I'm going to be out of the way of insects. I'm not going to have to worry. There's a biting fly in here, and it has hammered me twice. Taylor. Do you know which Taylor this is as well? This is Taylor McMuddy.
Is it really?
Yes, it is, because I know
Taylor.
exactly about this question. Taylor McMuddy, who's sitting apparently, she's...
So where does she get that name from, Tristan?
McMuddy is when she fell in the mud.
I don't know. Have I seen the footage?
You might have. But
did she get stuck that day, if I recall? Maybe.
She did.
She did.
Yeah, Taylor's not ashamed to admit she's been stuck a few times. She's not like Brent.
That was one of the funniest videos. I think the funniest part of that video was Jamie's laughter at Taylor McMuddy's fall.
Jamie laughing. For those of you that don't know what happened, Taylor got stuck. She was trying to get out, and then she tried to jump towards Jamie's car and fell face first into the mud. And Jamie, one of our other presenters at the time, completely broke down in fits of hysterics, which made the video very, very
And
funny.
Jamie was live, and she was trying to talk, but she couldn't. It was just sobbing laughter.
Exactly, it was very, very entertaining. Taylor was asking about, have I ever seen an Ayers hawk eagle in the Sabi Sands. And so Taylor's sitting apparently in a warm, nice, cozy
tent.
No, she's not in a tent. She's on leave, so she's full of beans this morning.
Oh, of course she is.
Is asking about Ayers Hawk Eagles. I have not seen an Ayers Hawk Eagle in the Sabi Sands. I don't know of anyone who has seen an Ayers Hawk Eagle in the Sabi Sands.
Sounds like you two have had this conversation before.
Yes, because basically what happened was that somebody said they saw an Ayers Hawk Eagle north of us here.
Really?
And then we were asking about photos.
No photos there.
Just to see, and apparently there's no photos. So very tricky to know for sure. Maybe it was. With weather conditions like we've got, it's possible that one's been blown off. They're very common to the north of us in Zimbabwe, in the Matopus Mountains range or Kopi areas.
I still haven't seen one.
But here is a very, very difficult. I mean, like I say, I don't know of anyone who's seen one in the sands. But you know, when you get big cyclones like this, we were talking earlier about birds being blown in. It's possible that an Ayers Hawk Eagle has arrived in this area. It kind of can happen. But yeah, I would, without photos, you know, it's always a big call, these kinds of things. For those of you that want to know what the difference between an Ayers and an African Hawk Eagle is just the streaking. The streaking of an Ayers Hawk Eagle generally comes all the way down onto the leg area and towards the rump, whereas an African Hawk Eagle, the streaking tends to start to fade as it gets to the waist, basically, of the bird.
The tail's also very good.
Yeah. The tail is also a very good IDing feature, very barred and heavy. Well,
it's a much narrower subterminal tail band.
So there we go. So no is the answer to that, Taylor McCurdy, and I hope that you have a wonderful day of leave.
Enjoy your hot chocolate and your duvet.
Enjoy your hot chocolate and your duvet in such miserable weather.
What a lovely sight we have here. A few swallows just busy taking it easy on this dead tree, doing a little bit of preening. Very important maintenance behavior. And they're just enjoying the stillness of Tshwane at the moment. Little white-throated swallows. Look like all juveniles as well. Everybody's getting their clean on, realigning the feathers. And that's a display or behavior that's seen across the board by birds. And it's mainly done with the beak, and if you don't have that tool, if you don't have a nice neat little beak, if you've got a big spooner's beak or a long beak, they've even got specialized little toes that they would preen themselves with. Or a toe, sorry, not toes. It's a beautiful light, sure. These lovely birds are into Africa migrants, so just moving south in there and then moving north. They'll move north at about May, April to go back into the midst of Africa.
Well, as you can see, we have a hippo that is somewhere here. It keeps kind of popping its nose up and down. Steve was briefly alluding to it earlier, but the poor camera is wobbling all over the place in this wind that's picked up. It's almost like being in the water with the hippo, like bobbing along in the water as up and down.
If you feel
movement of the
seasick,
camera.
it's pretty difficult.
Yeah, I was
There's
about
no
to say.
horizon to look at right now.
Exactly. Well, you can watch the leaves on the right-hand side. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. It's probably not helping at all. But it's a very shy hippo at the moment. It just wants to show.
But I just heard some very, very good news.
What's that, Stephen?
Marcel told us that we are getting pancakes for breakfast.
Pancakes? That's amazing. We actually, funny enough, where I live, there's a cat that is in the estate. I don't know whose cat it is, but it's been nicknamed Pancakes now. So whenever I hear pancakes, I think of this cat, and this cat is completely squint. Its kind of eyes cross over. It's a very random cat. It's also quite nasty. It's kind of a bit hissy and whatever, but Pancakes comes for a visit every now and then. So now when I think of pancakes, funny enough, I don't think of food. I think of a cat that's cross-eyed. It's a bit of a weird thing, but anyway. But pancakes will be nice.
Pancakes will be nice.
It's going to be
Be nice. I know Taylor used to always, and it used to actually get to me for a little bit, because 45 minutes before the end of show, Taylor would start discussing breakfast.
I know.
And the directors would detail exactly what it is Taylor was talking about for breakfast. And then for 45 minutes, my tummy would just be turning over in knots.
No, exactly. Because that's the thing is, it's like 9 o'clock in the morning doesn't sound like it's that late, and people do have breakfast. That is one of your spirit animals, Stephen. And it doesn't sound like late, but when you think that you've been awake for 5 hours already by the time 9 o'clock rolls around, a meal is definitely needed by that point. But there's a Hadida ibis with its beautiful little white patch on its chin, if you want to call it. Is it calling?
I've never noticed that.
Let's see if it calls. Hold on.
Definitely looked like he was
Got to
calling.
turn the sound on the damn cam on a bit so I can hear. It looked like it was calling. It's calling. That's very cool.
My new spirit bird.
It's your spirit bird, Steve. It's talking to you. It wants to come and say hello. It's asking where you are and why you're not out on drive.
I wonder if it's wondering if it can have pancakes for breakfast too.
Harold the Hardy-Dar, it's been raining, so we're not on drive today. Sorry to disappoint you. Stephen will be out later at some point, I'm sure. That's why.
That's all he wanted to hear.
Exactly. No, he's gone. He's flown away. He's
All he
decided
wanted to hear was
that's all I needed to hear. Stephen will not be out, but he just came to let you know that he's here.
Well, everybody, it has been a wonderful morning. It's been quite wet and rainy, but I hope you've enjoyed some of the commentary from Tristan and myself. We've thoroughly enjoyed, or I thoroughly enjoyed having Tristan as my co-commentator here in the commentary box, where it has been fun and entertaining. The coffee has depleted. The biscuits have been wonderful. Marcel for the snacks. We'll see you all again this afternoon. From what platforms and what direction, we're difficult to say, but stay dry, stay safe. Until then, good day and goodbye.